בחרמון נמס השלג בחצי הלילה, בחרמון זורם לו פלג בחצי הליל, אבא שם על הר השלג בחצי הלילה, שר שירים על נס בפלא עם כל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. בבקעת תמר פורח בחצי הלילה, הירח שם זורח בחצי הליל, שם אחי ודאי שומע בחצי הלילה את שירנו השמח כאן בישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. במדבר הולך החושך בחצי הלילה, שקט הס בארץ גושן בחצי הליל, לדודי עיני נחושת בחצי הלילה, וגם הוא חוגג כמו שכל בית ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. ואני יושב בבית בחצי הלילה, עם נרות וגביע יין בחצי הליל, וכוכב מאיר עיניים בחצי הלילה, לי מוסר ברכת שמיים ולכל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. שוב צוהל.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 949 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again on a Sunday fundraiser night, the best night of the week. And also, we got some very good news coming out of Russia that the economy is failing, according to the Russian central bank. And also, the Israelis are leveling some very big ports. It's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine and the ongoing news of the war going on in the Middle East at this moment, as Israeli forces conducted a major airstrike overnight, leveling and destroying a critical port for the Yemeni Houthis within western Yemen, causing a massive explosion that was seen for miles around, busting out windows throughout the entirety of Hudaydah, and also once again destroying strategic resources and assets used by proxy forces throughout the entirety of the Middle East to continue their campaigns of terror against the Western combined world within the region. We were also able to get incredibly major news out of Ukraine, as we were able to see heightened battle activities today within the area of the Kursk Oblast, as Ukrainian forces continue to try and drive home towards the town of Glishkovo and wipe out the Russians' western flank, making sure to secure theirs, and also to ensure that this defensive operation will be able to continue on far longer, ensuring that the Russians will have to dedicate even more manpower and resources to try and be able to push the Ukrainians out of this area. Not only that, we were able to get incredibly big news that the Milarovo air base has been stricken just a little while ago by Ukrainian air forces, as we were able to see that an incredibly large fire has brewed up on the southern side of the airfield and appears to be ravaging the entire area, destroying a large amount of Russian logistical abilities at that airfield and possibly some airframes as well. Meanwhile, on the Pokrovsk and Chasiv Yar fronts, we were able to see that Ukrainian forces have been able to hold a very heroic defensive today, as Russian forces continued another offensive operation and were once again thwarted, with a large amount of Russian losses being documented on picture and video evidence. Not only that, we've been able to hear that according to the Russian central bank, which we have this posted on Twitter, that the Russian Federation is on the down and out economically, as the Russian central bank has declared that the nation is in a backslide, and it appears that the country may be going under at any given point, considering that the finances are at a very precarious fever pitch at this moment, and may tip over to the point that the Russians go into a complete economic depression and may not be able to carry on this war much longer. These are just
honestly, that is some of the best news we've heard in a long time, because the Russian economy is the linchpin to the entire war operation inside of Ukraine. If Ukraine can effectively tear down the Russian economy through various means, like striking their infrastructure and things like that, the Russians will collapse internally, and that will win the entire war. That's really understating how important this really is to take down the Russian economy. And this is very good news. The Russian central bank themselves is saying it's having problems. That's excellent.
And it is absolutely excellent. It is an incredible piece of news to hear, and maybe showing that the war may not be able to go on as long as everyone thought it would for a while, and once again is leading us to try and change the crystal ball that we've always been having to alter and correct throughout the entirety of the war, because crystal balling just never ends up being accurate. And this is once again another great example of something changing on the fly, which changes all predictions well on into the future. But we have absolutely loads of news to cover tonight, an insanely high amount. And of course, it is the Sunday night fundraiser. And tonight's fundraiser is for none other than Nova Ukraine, an amazing nonprofit. And so far, we've ended up raising a whopping $788 towards the $3,000 goal that the Lee Spring Army has set out tonight. And I've got to say, before we even get into the news that has been made today so far, the Lee Spring Army is going to make its own news once again tonight. The Lee Spring Army is one of the only pro-Western, pro-American organizations, true and through, on the internet at this point. This community not only represents the best wishes of the United States, but the best wishes of the collective Western world as a whole. This community and its combined effort every single Sunday of coming together and supporting one of these fundraisers continues to show not only the West, but the entire world that the people of this sphere that we live in are continuously dedicated to its cause and continuously dedicated to every single step and every single measure to ensure that Western interests will continue to reign supreme around the world, and that any axis of evil, whether it be led by the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, or any bad doers out there in the world, they will always know that the Lee Spring Army, along with everyone in the Western world, will continue to stand watch and guard against any axis of evil, and will work tirelessly to contribute even a small part to the victory that the West will continue to ensure. But moving on from that and on into our major news for the night. By the way, can we get an LSA in the chat for that? But we are going to be moving on down into the Middle East, into Western Yemen, where we were able to see that the not the United States, correction there, the Israeli Defense Forces, and specifically the Israeli Air Force, was able to pull off an incredibly successful strike in the area of Al-Hudaydah, once again leveling a large area of the port infrastructure and ensuring that the Yemeni Houthis, another Iranian-backed proxy, will be put down and out of the action on into the near future. The best way that we could describe the Yemeni Houthis and the ongoing conflict in the Middle East right now is one of heavy artillery support. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps continue to ensure that the Yemeni Houthis are equipped with a wide array of long-range munitions, including some intermediate and also long-range ballistic missiles that have been used at different points throughout the conflict to target and strike at southern Israel and all the way up to the area of Tel Aviv. It cannot be understated that while the Houthis are incredibly far away from Israel, their impact in the war is quite large, and some of the few Houthi launches that have been conducted so far have ended up eating up some of Israel's most valuable interceptors in the form of the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 ballistic missile interceptors, which we have seen in action around the port of Eilat multiple times since last year around the beginning of October. We have also been able to see that the Israelis have conducted limited airstrikes and limited actions along with the United States and the United Kingdom against the Yemeni Houthis within this area and trying to make sure to curtail any of their fighting efforts at least to a minimum. But the Israelis seem to be realizing that to deal with Hezbollah and to deal with the Iranian proxies throughout this entire region, they must be willing and prepared to deal with the Yemeni Houthis as well and strike at them and any of their abilities to be able to continue to wage war against the state of Israel. And that leads us into the most major port within Houthi-controlled areas tonight, which is Al-Hudaydah. Al-Hudaydah is a major port, and it has been one that's been brought up in our news several times before. Many ships that the Yemeni Houthis have ended up capturing have actually been brought to Al-Hudaydah port and have been sat here while the crews have been held for ransom further on inside of Yemen, or inside of Houthi-controlled Yemen. This port is incredibly important to not only the Yemeni Houthis, but really to everyone around the world. It's one of the ways that Iran is able to directly supply weapons and supplies to the Houthis within this region, and they are able to ensure through those supplies that the Houthis always pose a threat and a risk not only to Israel, but also to Saudi Arabia as well, which is another important ally that we have within this region. If the Houthis were able to continue to receive supplies through Al-Hudaydah, they will continue to pose a serious threat to not only Israel's interest, but collective Western interest within this front. For that reason, overnight, the Israelis sent an airstrike wing to be able to head down to Al-Hudaydah and strike at any Houthi-controlled resources that are in the port and to completely destroy their fighting capabilities, or at least their logistical abilities, here at Al-Hudaydah. And we were able to get 3 separate video clips showing us the explosions that resulted from the Israeli airstrike. First off, we're going to be starting with our first clip that we got today, which was of the port just getting absolutely plastered. So here's the clip. Oh, you see the smoke rising from Al-Hudaydah port in the distance. Some very interesting dialogue in the background. And the fire continues.
It sounds like he's rather panicked about this very large explosion. I wonder why.
I wonder why. I have heard, Matthew, that apparently because of this explosion, the Houthis have reached out to something that sounds quite similar to the Houthis, which is the Houthi Mama, which is over in Iran, asking for more weapons, considering that a decent amount of them, and also the fuels inside of Al-Hudaydah port, have once again been completely leveled by another Israeli airstrike. We were also
Man, I've heard the Houthis are getting so scared out here, they're thinking about switching careers from terror over to a singing organization called the Blowfish.
Really?
Yeah.
No way. Like, that's crazy, man. I'm telling you what, man. And then they're going to change careers to being a whole bunch of sailors out there in the Red Sea. They're going to be going, "Yar, it's time to conduct piracy on the high seas." And then they get obliterated. As James Hughes obliterates the fundraiser by throwing in a $200 donation, getting us up to $1,700 raised on the fundraiser in under 20 minutes. Absolutely insane. And the Lee Spring Army is absolutely blowing away the fundraiser goals tonight and sending it on to Kingdom Come, which is amazing. And it's a lot like what the Israelis did to the Houthis in Al-Hudaydah port. They also sent them to Kingdom Come as well. And check out this clip. Oh. That's what it sounds like when I try and start my car early in the morning. It goes it does that. So this guy, he's trying to get down the sound effects while he's watching the explosion. But nevertheless, moving on into our last clip at Al-Hudaydah, we were also able to see the major explosion from another angle. Check this out. Oh, dang. Suffice it to say, people are a little shocked about this down around Al-Hudaydah, and a lot of people are shocked about this as well, because it was a little unexpected and a bit of a curveball that the Israelis were going to try and deal with the Houthis the same time they were dealing with Hezbollah, or at least deal with the Houthis in the form that they cannot really strike at Israel that much while Israel is dealing with the Houthis. This airstrike is actually a pretty important one, as not only is it leveling, once again, the port facilities that are at Al-Hudaydah, which we can see right here, or at least the ones that were intact before the explosion, it is also making sure that the Houthis cannot strike at the Israelis while they're trying to deal with Hezbollah. This means that Iran's abilities of striking at Israel without directly striking at them from Iran are once again greatly reduced. It means that the Iranians in their decision-making circles are going to have to be deciding whether they have to directly respond to Israel from Iran on a direct attack to Israel, or if there's some other way through the proxies that they can manage attacks against the state of Israel while making sure that Iran remains completely uninvolved. This is something that will be consuming a lot of time within the Iranian decision circles, which could be inside the military or the central government, as they try and figure out what kind of options do they actually have if they want to respond to Israel, and when can that happen? And at this moment, all of that is probably significantly delayed. But nevertheless, the explosion is a wonderful bit of news to hear. But it isn't the kind of suffocating news that would really lead you to believe that things are truly lost for the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if y'all are here tonight to hear some of that really suffocating news that would make the Iranian leadership feel like there's just not a lot of air left in the room, well, I'm going to be moving y'all up to that kind of news up inside of Beirut. Because while people have been sending out prayers for Lebanon, where for whatever reason, I don't know why, because really Israel's only striking directly at the folks down there on the ground who are doing not so great things in support of Western interests. We have been able to see that a little bit of additional news has come out of Dania. You see, Nasrallah didn't die immediately when that explosion happened the other day that we were reporting on. When Hezbollah said that he was alive an hour after the explosion occurred, they were actually correct. He was still alive even after the bombs fell. Now, let me show you all the picture here so that way you can get a little bit of a better idea of what I'm describing. This is what the area looked like after the bombs fell from the Israeli airstrike from the F-35I Adirs, and the structures above the Hezbollah bunker had collapsed down on top of the bunker, and fires were raging all across the area. Now, this is something very interesting. The bunker actually was not destroyed. Nasrallah was actually alive when this picture was taken, buried under the rubble in a room in the bunker. It has been found out now that the bunker actually survived the blast, but then another level of Hezbollah and Iranian incompetence came into play. The bunker had absolutely no air filtration systems built into it whatsoever. So as these fires continued to rage on top of the bunker, they were releasing noxious fumes the entire time. And so Nasrallah sat down there and started to slowly lose consciousness along with everyone else that was in the bunker. Slowly his eyes closed, and they closed for the last time, and the noxious fumes killed him and everyone else inside the bunker. It was probably the slowest and most agonizing way that Nasrallah could have gone, is to suffocate to death inside of a bunker, knowing that people are literally right outside trying to get in there to save him, but no one could save him in time. Nasrallah died under the rubble of this building, suffocating to death on the fumes that were created from the building's collapse and the ensuing fire that resulted from that. And we were able to
and
get
also
that.
what's crazy as well is they went down to that bunker thinking they were totally safe, because you had Netanyahu leaving Israel and going to New York. So that gave them the false sense that they were safe going down there to that bunker. And sure enough, it was a big ruse. They weren't smart enough to pick up on it, and then he choked to death. Oh, look, there he is choking right there in a picture. What do you know?
Dude, he's kind of like
Just
us.
a little tuberculosis of the liver.
Yeah, he's kind of like us, man. But anyways, I'll read y'all exactly what Israel's Channel 12 reported. So, Israel's Channel 12 reported that Hassan Nasrallah died of suffocation in an unventilated bunker, which is why his body was recovered intact from the rubble, which is true. His body was recovered intact. According to the report, toxic gases from the explosions entered the room where he was staying, causing his gradual death. Earlier, two sources cited by Reuters said that Nasrallah's body had no direct wounds, and it appeared the cause of death was blunt trauma from the force of the blast. But nevertheless, we were able to see a little bit today about Nasrallah and his body, and it does seem as though, from what we could tell, he did die of suffocation. And I have to say this, just as a standpoint thing, that is one hell of a way to go for such a sick and evil person. Now, this guy is the leader of, and of course we can't really mince words here, so I'll just say it outright. This guy was the leader of one of the biggest and most dangerous terrorist organizations that has existed in the Middle East since the 1980s. This has been the guy since about the mid or early 90s that has led this organization on some of its darkest days and has conducted some of the largest atrocities that have been seen so far against loads of people across the entirety of the Middle East. This guy, under his leadership, sent people to a brutal, slow, and painful death more times than ever could be counted. And the fact that this guy ended up dying by the same way he put many others to death, a slow, painful, agonizing death where all he could do was sit in that bunker and realize that his final moments had been counted and that he was going to be slipping on into the great beyond, is one hell of a poetic way for such a sick and evil person to go. It really does show.
I wonder what would have more like fitting justice, like this way of him going out right here with him basically dying a slow death, or being able to capture him and then put him on trial, if that's even possible. That would have been very hard to pull off, by the way. But between the two, honestly, I think the way he went out was probably the best justice to the victims of this guy right here, who was basically like the modern day Osama bin Laden. This was the guy on that same level right here, and he was taken out in a very brutal way. So it is really like truly karma that came back on him. But, you know, if they could have captured him, that could have been good as well. They could have put him on a nice little trial and then put him out. But y'all let us know in the comments what y'all think.
And I got to say, it is wonderful to know that the guy got taken out in such a way, because it really will strike fear. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, that sounds like it was a brutal way for him to go. And it was. That's actually the truth. But one thing that this will possibly do is maybe strike fear in other Hezbollah commanders that their death will not be so sudden, and it may end up being a slow and agonizing one, a lot like Nasrallah went through. And the actual interesting thing about this, I want to make sure to remind you all of this, is that Hezbollah did say about an hour after the strike, or 2 hours after the strike, that he was indeed alive in there and that nothing had killed him. And so, from what we can tell, at least on the story that we're going to be assuming on this channel, they were alive inside the bunker and were somehow still able to communicate with Hezbollah forces outside of the bunker, walking around on the rubble. So they knew that he was alive, and he knew that rescue was literally just several feet above his head, trying to dig through the rubble to get to his room in the bunker. That is something that is crazy to think about right there. And the absolute agony of knowing that you're inside of this bunker and you're slowly starting to die, and that the people are right above you trying to dig you out, and there's nothing that anyone could do in time to save you, but salvation is that close. That had to have been one of the most agonizing and terrorizing things that this evil person ever went through. And that is something that in its own right is going to strike fear in many other Hezbollah commanders, that they may go the same way this guy went. And not only that, I would say this is a certainly poetic ending to such a sick and evil person. I would have to say, to be honest with y'all, this is better than the Osama bin Laden takedown, because with the Osama bin Laden takedown, that was done surgically and very swiftly. This was also done surgically and very swiftly, but the after effect was quite long and lingering. And I'm generally not one to say that I'm a big fan of suffering being inflicted on people, but as far as someone like this, who actively went out of their way to conduct heinous acts against people, sometimes just to send a message, that's one hell of a way for him to go out. I guess you could say he truly lived by the sword and died by the sword in the way he was doing things around the world. But nevertheless, a very interesting thing to hear, a very interesting thing to see. And at the moment, we do know that the Iranians are still trying to debate it out, what they're going to be doing about this. And especially considering that this guy died like a dog. He died down there in a bunker, suffocating to death. It wasn't some heroic death, like a martyr's death where he got bombed. He got bombed and then he suffocated to death. Pretty big embarrassment, to be entirely honest, for the Iranians and also Hezbollah and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And a lot of people are starting to wonder what's going on with the lack of the Iranian response, because Israel continues to destroy Iranian-backed forces with no large counterattacks. So what is going on? And a lot of people are saying that Iran is simply stalling for time. And some people are saying that Iranian command has been just completely destroyed, at least in any effective means. And so for that reason, we're seeing that the actual Iranian command inside of Iran is trying to figure out what to do with only half the command running, because the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hezbollah are kind of in a state of shambles at this moment and aren't really able to come up with a cohesive message or a cohesive picture and figure out what's going on all too well at the moment. So a lot of people are trying to figure out what in the world is going on with the complete lack of response from the Iranian side. And it seems as though a decent amount of people are incredibly split on this at the moment. But Matthew, what are people thinking, and what are you thinking as well?
All right, so the big question still remains. What is Iran going to do now that the Iranian-backed forces have been largely taken out? The command structure has. What is Iran going to do? Because they really haven't done much yet except declare a 5-day period of mourning. So about 37% of the audience said Iran is simply stalling for time, while 36% said Iran's command has been destroyed and that's why there's no counterattacks, and 14% said no response is planned by Iran toward Israel. And right now we are hearing from Iran directly. They are saying that the whole killing of the commanders here will not go unanswered. But of course, we have heard that so many times before and nothing has really happened. Largely, Iran is kind of like Russia at this point. They make wildly bold statements about how they're going to attack, and then they really don't do much of anything. So, me personally, I think the real issue is the entire command structure has been destroyed. Hezbollah is in shambles right now. They really have no command structure in place. And also, Iran is trying to deal with some losses as well, because they're being taken out slowly over time also. So, between between those two things right there, and also the Houthis being hit, they're currently in a scramble to figure out who's in charge and who's going to issue the orders. So I think that's going to be a problem they're going to be grappling with for some time. So if they're going to launch a response, it'll probably be a decent ways down the road and not anytime within the immediate future. But I really doubt they'll have a response at all. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I also would agree with the 36% that most command structures have been completely destroyed at this point. Now, the Iranian central command structure has not been destroyed and eliminated, but the problem is that Iran is probably trying to figure out and weigh its options right now on what it can do versus what its proxies can do. And while most of the proxies' fighting abilities are somewhat intact, at least in their abilities to fire rockets at the Israelis or conduct limited ground operations, they aren't able to communicate with those proxies because all of the leadership has largely been killed, or they're completely unavailable at the moment because they're most likely in hiding, and we're not able to create any sort of a communication chain with Iran, or they might be scared that that would lead to them being, their location being triangulated, and then they'll be targeted and destroyed as well. So going off of that, I would largely have to say that's the reason why we're not really seeing Iran doing a lot. They're probably trying to figure out if they can make contact with most of their forces, their proxy forces in the region, and then figure out what to do, and they're not really getting any progress with that at all. If that continues on for the next few days, we may see that the Iranians have to fall back onto direct action from themselves against Israel, and if that is the case, we will probably be seeing some really, and I mean really interesting action unfolding from this point forward. We'll probably see that Iran once again tries to conduct a large missile and drone attack against the state of Israel, and that may or may not be entirely successful. We'll have to kind of wait and see, especially considering that their proxies have been knocked out. The Iranians would probably be firing most of their weapons once again into a iron dome of air defense systems, not only inside of Israel, but also inside of Jordan and inside of Iraq as well, led by the coalition, the U.S., Jordanian, and Israeli forces in this region. But nevertheless, and also British forces as well. I forgot to mention them. The British forces are usually always present as well and helping to defend the skies over Israel and also the skies over the entirety of the Western aligned Middle East. But still, a very...
Oh, and also, by the way, Enforcer, I saw Connor Van Deventer saying in the live chat, he said Hezbollah did find a new leader, but he got killed already this quick. And that is true. They did have a new leader in there for a short while. He did get taken out really, really quick. And I think it's going to happen pretty much every leader beyond this point. And it's going to happen in quick succession because right now Israel is ramped up to put the hurt on pretty much every proxy group out there. And they are raring to go. And they know this is the opportune time, since Hezbollah is struggling for command structure. This is the time to go for it. And also, not only are they striking the Iranian proxy forces, we also heard today as well that reports suggest that contact was also lost with the brother of the Syrian President Assad. His brother Maher Assad is now missing. And it's suspected that maybe he was caught up in some type of attack that was launched by Israel. So there's a lot of people right now going missing that are either involved with the top leadership in these countries, these terror regimes, or something like that. So I think that Israel is going to keep taking them out as they put them in.
I think so. I literally think, man, at this point it's like a game of hot potato. Everyone just keeps on throwing around the title of Hezbollah leader or general secretary of Hezbollah to each other. They get bombed, and then the title is thrown like hot potato to the next guy, so that way they get obliterated as well. I think it's going to get worse on top of that, because we have to remember that Israeli intelligence at this point, from what we know, has been incredibly effective at figuring out how to intercept any kind of Hezbollah communications on the lower level and wipe out a lot of lower level commanders. We've been seeing that a load since last October. And for that reason, we know that operational security is only really assured at some of the highest echelons of command inside of Hezbollah. And considering that Nasrallah was just killed, that means that everyone else that is going to be assuming the position of General Secretary of Hezbollah will be probably a lot less operationally secure in terms of the information that the Israelis have on them than Nasrallah. So Israel will probably have a great deal of information on where those people were last seen, what they were doing, where they were in Lebanon, or where they were inside the Middle East, and how to strike them and kill them effectively. So that means that we'll
you gotta love it. And also, you gotta love it as well, Enforced. They got Nasrallah, or not Nasrallah, excuse me. They got the Iranian president, what is it, Khamenei, or the supreme leader. They got him running around like a scared rat from bunker to bunker inside of his own country. He knows that they can reach him over there, and he can't even come out to make a statement. That's even crazier.
Man, it is crazy, honestly, man. And it's also crazy that just a little while ago they were putting out that video, Matthew, of the old antique F4s driving around that bunker, and it was
Oh
going,
yeah,
Akhadi, Ursami, Akhwadi, and now they're sitting
so
there running from
intimidating.
bunker to bunker. It's like that is what is actually going on in Iran, and that's the thing I just wish people would learn. Like, everyone always acts like, for some reason, some people in America, and it's not everyone, always acts like these countries that we're going up against in the Western world are these really bad and mean countries that we just don't have a way of fighting against. Like Iran, everyone goes, oh my God, Iran will curb stomp us. Oh, we're gonna die. And then we watch what happens. We kill, the Israelis kill Nasrallah, and then we got Khamenei running around like he's Adolf Hitler at the end of World War II. I mean, he's literally going from bunker to bunker like he's trying to knock off all the marks and get all the little passport stamps saying that he went to all of them. He's like collecting license plates out here. It's crazy to see something like that, and it once again reminds us how weak these people really are and how weak they even know they are, because they know that if anyone really wanted to do something to them, it would literally be as easy as just flying a jet into their airspace, dropping a bomb on them, and that would be the end of the situation. It's only the restraint of Israel in the West that allows them to live. And so, for that reason, we can see right now, they're running around like they've absolutely lost it. And so with that,
Israel's really like a good proof of concept, by the way, because the U.S. has been advising restraint in the Middle East pretty much for like months at this point, actually years. And Israel's not holding back now. And look at the progress they're making so quickly.
yeah, they're making huge progress. That's the thing. Like, it's like, if we allowed nations to be unrestrained in their response and we just supported them all the way, problems would be dealt with a lot quicker than many people would expect. Like, everyone always thinks that if we just let people off the leash and let them go do their thing, or we let America off the leash and we go do our thing, that it's going to be incredibly heinous and the situation is going to be bad. On the contrary, we're actually nipping things in the bud, usually so quickly that the problems disappear quite rapidly. We can see that Hamas has largely gone to the wayside. They still exist a little bit, but they're not going to be around for the next 10 years at least, until they build up their forces again. The Hezbollah forces will also be dealing with the same problem, and especially since Nasrallah has been killed, which has been in that position since 1992, and he just lost position when he suffocated to death a few days ago, we know that they're going to be largely on the down and out because a lot of their efficiency and a lot of their command ability was just lost a moment ago. If we just allow the Western world to be able to deal with the problems the way it needs to, problems will be solved quite quickly. Like, for example, let me just put this out there. The Yemeni Houthis only exist because of the restraint of the West. Once again, in that example, the Saudi Arabians have wanted to absolutely obliterate the Houthis the entire time they've existed, which has been for about 12 years at this point. And we continuously go, oh no, don't do that, just it's a Yemeni internal affair, don't do anything to them. And then we don't really support Yemen much because we go, that's y'all's own thing. And then we don't really do much to them either. If everyone in the area just came together to crush the Houthis, along with the Yemeni government, Saudi Arabia, and the United States, we could put the Yemeni Houthis out of action once and for all. Yemen would be a unified country. There would still be some unrest, but you wouldn't see piracy on the high seas in the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. And you also would not see another very interesting problem, which is the endless amount of jet ski drone attacks that are being conducted on commercial shipping in this area that has ended up taking down a couple of merchant vessels, and sometimes possibly a lot of valuable cargo with it as well. That is why we just need to go out there and be assertive. We need to get things done. Crush the Houthis.
Although I will say, Enforcer, real quick while we're on this topic, I don't want to get too far away from it, that we do have to exercise a little restraint. Like, I'm not personally saying, like, for example, Israel's proving the fact that if you go and deal with things very assertively and very aggressively, they are handling the situation very well, but they are dealing with specific forces. For example, the proxy forces, and those forces are not nuclear armed. We do have to be a little bit more careful when dealing with a nuclear power. Like, for example, we still don't really know for a fact if Iran's actually armed with a nuclear weapon or not. But I think the fact that the Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, has not been taken out yet, that might suggest that they might have nuclear weapons. And also, I see some people in the live chat saying, well, we should take the same attitude and apply it in Ukraine. We should to an extent, but not all the way, because once again, Russia does have nukes, and if pushed too far, they could use those. So I say let Ukraine and also Israel do what they need to do to a extent of reason, not all the way.
Of course, like, obviously, you don't go all in with the nuclear power and just start slugging it out with them. Like, that would make no sense. What I'm saying, though, is things like with the Houthis, it would be very easy to just go in and crush them and end this entire problem once and for all. It's literally because of our inaction in Yemen that we've been seeing such attacks on commercial shipping in this area. That's the only reason. But obviously, you can't go and just go to war with Russia or China to try and end problems there. That would make no sense at all, and that usually would end up in a nuclear holocaust. Another thing I would have to say, though, about the Iranians is that I don't really think they have a usable nuclear weapon. If they did, they would have conducted a nuclear test. Like, that is just a de facto thing. Like, we knew that the North Koreans had a usable nuclear weapon because they conducted a nuclear test of the first nuclear warhead they made, because for these countries to know they have a usable nuclear bomb, they have to blow it up. Like, that's what everyone has to do. Everyone has to blow up their first nuclear bomb so that way they can go, we've done it. The formula works. We actually have something we can use now. And Iran has never done that yet. We have never gotten confirmation. We've never got information showing any kind of seismic activity in Iran that would suggest that a nuclear test has been conducted. The Iranian government, if they did conduct a test like that, would be more than happy to come out into the public and say that we have a nuclear bomb and we will hit anyone that messes with us, because that's exactly what every country in the world does. It's very important to let people publicly know that the nuclear deterrent is there. So going off of that, I would have to say I'm largely doubting that the Iranians do have a usable nuclear weapon at this point. They may be very close to making one, but it's still not usable. And even if they were able to actually successfully test a nuclear weapon, it probably would take a little bit more time before they had an actual usable nuclear weapon that they would put into their arsenal. So going off of all of that, I would say that dealing with the Iranians at this point, you can be a lot more aggressive than even we're seeing at the moment. But of course, you'll have to kind of pull that back if we were able to confirm and absolutely know that they did have a nuclear weapon.
Maybe so. I would personally say that if it came down to it, if Iran did not have a functional nuke right now, I honestly would not put it past Russia to provide them with a launch system or a functional nuclear weapon themselves, because Russia wants the West to be tied up in multiple different locations. And for example, if we were able to deal with the Iranian threat right now and end that, and to basically take the supreme leader out of action and also take the whole army out of action and let Israel really go all the way, per se, that would be detrimental to Russia, because then we wouldn't be distracted in the Middle East hardly at all. We'd have things relatively under control for the most part, and that would not serve Russia well at all. So I think Putin would step in, and they really can't go down there and like provide military support because they're really tied up really heavily on the front line in Ukraine right now, but he could provide the ultimate weapon to them if it came down to it.
Maybe so, maybe possibly so, but at the same time, though, I don't really know if the Russians would want to do that or not, because that would be a pretty big commitment. Not only on the military side of things, but also on the economic side of things. And considering that we're hearing that the Russians economically are collapsing, they probably wouldn't really have that much of an ability to help out much at all. And on top of that, another thing is that while they can give them a nuclear weapon, the Iranians have no delivery system at the moment from what we know of. Like, even if they conduct a test and they actually have a running or operational nuclear bomb or a nuclear design that they can then mass produce, they don't really have a way to deliver that thing. So at the moment, we would know that these are probably going to be gravity bombs that are dropped off at the bottom of an aircraft, meaning that these things have very limited range and are probably going to be limited in kiloton yield. In the future, though, a lot like the North Koreans, they could start to develop their own intercontinental ballistic missiles and intermediate range ballistic missiles that would start to put a lot of the rest of the world under threat of some sort of nuclear retaliation from Iran, including the United States. And considering that geographically we are so far away from Iran, really the only country that would be at risk of being nuked would be Israel. As far as United States involvement in the area, we wouldn't be that concerned, at least from a diplomatic decision-making process, about us being nuked, because, it will still take many years without outside involvement for the Iranians to be able to try and hit the United States. So then, at that point, the only thing we would be concerned about is whether they would end up hitting Israel or not, which really changes how we could react and deal with the situation at all. We could literally just go in and say, this has nothing to do with Israel. This is entirely what we're wanting to do. And then Iran's hands are tied. They really can't nuke Israel because Israel has no open involvement in what we're doing to Iran, and Iran has no way to strike us either. So that could be another way to go about it. And considering that the Russians are so heavily tied into Ukraine and that their economy, from what we know even by the Russian central bank today, is in a very bad shape, the Russians may probably choose to not get involved that heavily rather than a strongly worded diplomatic statement and then leave it at that. Maybe.
Maybe so, maybe so. And also I saw someone in the live chat, they said, well, even if they don't have a launch system, and I agree with the Enforcer on that, if they don't have a launch system, that would greatly inhibit the ability to use a nuke, obviously, very clearly. They would be pretty much relegated to using it as a dirty nuke, which would mean actually taking it physically on the ground to the location you want to explode it, and then exploding it from there. But the catch with that is, Israel is pretty good with their border security and things like that. It would be very hard to smuggle that across because people would see, hey, there's a nuclear weapon in this vehicle. We searched it and we saw it. Unless there was like some really, really unusual event where they were able to like sneak it through the border, that would not be very likely. So without the launch system, the whole nuke situation is pretty much under control for the moment if Iran does not have a launch system. But if Russia decided to provide one or some other ally of Iran decided to do that, that would be quite bad because then they could launch it right into their territory. And depending on how advanced the launch system is, it could evade all the air defense systems that Israel has, depending on how fast it is.
But another thing that we do have to factor in, Matthew, is that Iranian missiles so far have been proven in the last attack and several attacks before that to have about a 50% success rate at launch. So that means if they have two nuclear weapons, two nuclear warheads, and two intermediate range missiles that they can fire those on, there is a pretty good chance that only one of those will actually successfully launch and the other one will fail to launch and pretty much plop onto the ground with an unarmed nuclear warhead, and then they have to try and recycle the remnants of that failed missile launch. That could be the case, especially if they only have one, that it's literally a flip of the coin whether that would even successfully launch or not, which could once again greatly curtail Iran from actually trying to use a nuclear weapon in a hostile manner, because they could try and use it and then it could completely fail outright right at the start, and then they're kind of out of a nuclear weapon and they also look like clowns at that point, and then they're begging for everyone to come down and obliterate them.
Man, that would be the ultimate like dud fail video if you had a nuclear weapon like fail like that. Like, man, that would be like the ultimate video to go thunk. Oh God, run! It's like, geez, it's a nuke. It's like it's not a mortar failing and like thunking out of the mortar tube or something like that. It's an entire nuke. Like that would be a legendary thing for Live League if it was still around. Is Live League still around?
Man, I hate to tell you, man, Live League died years ago, man.
Oh damn! Like I'm like one of those really old people. It's like 80 or 90 years old. Is Babe Ruth still around? It's like no, he died a while back.
Remember when I added a video to Live Leak? I put out a whale or something like that.
Y'all remember that one, kids? You remember Live Leak? I hope not, because Live Leak wasn't for kids.
Man, that should be exactly what he'd say. But beyond that, I think the situation will largely be under control in this area. So, even if they do have a nuclear weapon, which I don't think they do at the moment, even if they got one, they don't really have a delivery system. And also another thing, I have to put this out there. This is a very important thing. All of Iran's nuclear weapons, or not nuclear weapons, their missiles that they could use at the moment as a launch platform, have all either failed at launch, 50% of them fail, and the remainder of them all got shot down before they hit Israel. So the chances of any of them making it to Israel and hitting Israel is pretty slim. The other thing is that if they try and air launch it off of an aircraft, we have to remember that the entire Iranian Air Force is what we call here in the West a historic air show. It's made up of nothing but antique and vintage aircraft. There's not a single one that could actually fly all the way to Israel undetected, evade air defense, and then drop a nuclear bomb on Israel, or much less for that matter, the United States. So going off of all of that, we know that even if the Iranians had a nuclear weapon, it would not be that precarious of a situation even right now. We could actually end up going and dealing with them still, but it would be a pretty dangerous situation because a nuke being dropped regardless, or a nuke being blown up wherever it will blow up regardless, is a pretty big deal. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least with what we have at hand and also a little bit of the analysis we have at hand. And by the way, folks, just to put this out there, the fundraiser is at $2.5 thousand. We are only $500 away from the fundraiser goal. And if you want to make sure that the LSA never truly dies, please make sure to hit the goal, because it has been a long-standing tradition that the LSA has never missed a fundraiser goal, and we are so close to this one tonight, and I know that the collective efforts of the entirety of the LSA will ensure the LSA's victory once again on another Sunday night fundraiser. But dang, oh my goodness, the Anonymous came in with a 500, and we just hit, oh, actually, we're literally just like 20 bucks short.
Oh, dang, they were just short of goal, man.
Oh,
They're
my
like,
Lord.
I think 20 bucks off or something like that.
I hate that, man. Like, that was so hyped up. It's $500 donation, and we're literally like $24 short. Oh, now we're only $4 short.
Wait. Oh, $4. I thought it was the goal too, man. Damn, we're so close.
Actually, we're $9 short. Actually, we're $9 short. Oh, we hit the goal!
Let's go, Jugga Igor! Man, we smashed in another goal on another Sunday night fundraiser stream. I love to see it. I tell you what, we're 36 bucks above the goal now. It's fantastic, man. Another successful Sunday fundraiser. I love to see it.
Put an LSA in the chat. We hit the fundraiser goal in less than an hour. Absolutely incredible. Wonderful to see, and good to know that the Lee Spring Army continues to stand up against evil forces around the world and does its part in supporting Western interests and Western efforts worldwide. A huge shout out to all of y'all. Absolutely amazing stuff right there, and I hope that things continue to go incredibly well in Ukraine and also in the Middle East. But moving on out of the Middle East, it's now time for us to move on up into Ukraine, because we have so much news today, and especially from the Russian Central Bank. We have loads of news, a crazy amount of news, and you know what? I'm not even going to kid you all around with this. I'm actually going to tell you all about this right now. Here we go. The Russian Central Bank claims that Russia is on the brink of an economic crisis that is worse than a recession. And just to let you all know, something that is worse than a recession is called a depression, much like what I have deep in my soul. I'm just kidding, by the way. But Russia faces stagflation, in which economic growth slows down, but prices for goods continue to rise. Oh no. Oh no, is the Russian Central Bank saying that they're going to be dealing with rapid inflation? Oh no, that's terrible.
I thought it already happened though. Like, where have they been? I think they're a little late to the party. I think the stuff over there is already, like, for a hamburger, it's like 100,000 rubles or something like that. I think the inflation hit a long time ago. If anything else happens from here, it's like, it's not inflation anymore. It's like the economy is going to poo-poo.
Man, I'm telling you what, they got hit with big inflation, and then the Russian Central Bank comes out and goes, guess what, folks? That was just the tremor. The real inflation is coming around the corner. Dude, if I was in Russia right now and I heard that, I would understand why they pick up drinking as a daily routine, because I would be like, there's like nothing to be happy for at this point. Everything is doomed. It's all over. I'm not even going to be able to buy this vodka tomorrow. Like, it would be so sad, man. And of course, Russia is a pretty sad place. So the economy will be tanking, it will be getting worse, and we also got to hear that Zelensky today made a specific statement about this ordeal. And I'll actually be telling y'all, paraphrase for what he said. Russia be so crusty, they have no money, no beaches, they have no guns.
Man, Zelensky, I tell you what, he's a gangster at heart, really. He doesn't play around with those Russians. He keeps on that formal stuff. Actually, he let go of the formal stuff. He moved to the army stuff because he forgot the suit. He's moved on to the army stuff, but really at soul, he needs that Abibus. Like, that's really what he's got.
Bro, he's gonna be showing up, man. You're gonna hear that boom, he's gonna go, what's wrong, Russia? No money. And then he's gonna go like skirt away or something like that. Dude, they're going broke though. Like, legitimately, the Russian nation is going broke. And what's kind of a little concerning about that is that while that's a good thing for the war, that is going to be driving the Russians even closer to the Chinese, because China looks like daddy warbucks at the moment for the Russians, because they're desperate for money, and China has an unlimited amount of money compared to everyone but the United States. So they will probably be even drawn closer into the Chinese sphere because of this. So, you know, we'll have to, of course, consider that going on into the future. But in the short term, it is a very good thing to know that they are going to be financially destitute. I get Matthew, Putin's up there like Tiger King right now, and he's going, I'll never financially recover from this, or something like that. He said,
man, They're not recovering from anything. If you really think about like the seriousness of this, the Russian people are suffering so badly under Putin right now. Their sons are being sent off to war to get killed. Like they know when they go off to war, they're going to like basically come back dead. They're not going to make it during the war. They're also having massive, massive inflation, like where the prices of goods, like basics, are becoming so bad they can't afford anything. They're already like poor and broke to begin with, and now the infrastructure is being attacked inside of Russia, and they're losing that slowly. And also at the same time, Putin is cracking down on any little ounce of freedom they had in Russia before the war started. Like, there's really no positive at all to living in Russia right now. Like, that place is a hellhole. It's getting to the level almost of like the poor quality of living that North Korea had. It's really like at that level right now.
And I'll tell you something, man. Russia is just a horrendous place. Like, it's a place that's devoid of happiness, it's devoid of life. And I'm going to show y'all something that really, like, grinds my gears, okay? It really does. And this is something just completely off of a side note here, but I just want to show y'all this because I see this thing and it makes me very angry, like it really does. This ungodly abomination right here.
Oh, geez, man. That's like the like a Nightmare Siberia train or something.
Dude, this is like the Halloween train from hell right here. I don't even know what the hell this thing is supposed to be. It's called it's a Skoda, actually, funnily enough. So I'm like, I guess it came from Czechoslovakia back when it was in the Warsaw Pact, but this thing is horrendously ugly. You know, like it's incredibly ugly. But if you want to see something else that's not a train that's pretty ugly, the Tupolev 154, in my opinion, is also a pretty ugly looking plane. Like it's just weird. Like it's a little bit too big for the kind of wing configuration that it has. This is like for a Boeing 717, and they put this thing on like a wide body. It's almost like, as far as the body width on this thing, I think it's about as wide as like an A330, and it's got like the wing structure and layout of a 717 from Boeing. It's like, what the hell are they thinking? I just don't know. And also another thing, I need to go find y'all the Tupolev company just to show y'all some of the other ungodly abominations that have been produced by Tupolev. Just to give y'all an idea of how it's not fun to live in Russia. Oh, look, they, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that one. The Russians went, our designs are horrendous, so we're just going to literally just copy the Boeing 757 and try and sell that. And it's not even selling either.
Matt sucks, man. Also, I was seeing people in the live chat. They're saying it looks like a DC-10 or something like that. That little engine on the tail section right there, it really did on that last one you looked at a moment ago. Like it's like they stole that from that plane design right there. I've never cared for that, like on the American version or this Russian version right here. I don't like that engine on the tail. I don't know if it's because of the bad reputation associated with that version of plane. Yeah, I don't know if it's the bad reputation associated with this plane that makes me not like it or what. I've always looked at that and thought, that doesn't look safe for some reason. I don't know why. It doesn't like ring out safety in my mind. I think I'm tainted though. I've watched too many air disasters about this plane, and I think that may be it.
Okay, so the DC-10 from the DC-10 sucked. Like, I think everyone can agree the DC-10, as far as like its safety record, was very questionable. But I will say that I do like the MD-11, because I think, if I remember correctly, the MD-11 didn't have any of the major safety issues that the DC-10s had, you know, where like they had the rapid depressurization of the cargo holds that were so violent it would literally rip apart the plane. Like, I don't think these had that problem. Let me check. Design, variants, operators, notable accidents. Let's see here.
Wasn't it always the cargo door? There was like a bad bolt or something on the cargo door that would always like come loose and blow open. It would cause explosive decompression, and then it would be catastrophic. Wasn't this that plane?
I don't think it was. I think it was the DC-10, and that's why I liked the MD-11, because I think the configuration was cool. But the DC-10 did it poorly. And from what I'm reading right here, in a rapid descent, so it doesn't look like anyone's dying from rapid depressurizations on the MD-11. So let me just go back really quickly to the DC-10, and we will check that, because it will say in the accidents thing whether this is the one that had the rapid depressurizations or not. So, accidents and incidents. 55 accidents and incidents, including 32 hull loss accidents, with 1,261 fatalities combined amongst all accidents. Let's see.
Oh, cargo door problem. There it is right there in the bold. It says cargo door problem. This must be it.
Yeah, this is the one. So the MD-11 didn't have the problem, but the DC-10 was the one that had the problem. And that's why I don't really like the DC-10. Like, I would agree with you. The DC-10 was really, like, jank in its safety, like, assurance, well, its quality and its safety records. But the MD-11, on the other hand, was, like, the improved and far better version of the DC-10 that did not have any of those problems at all. Like, anyone who died on these, from what I could see, died from, like, improper maintenance by the company running the plane, or it was pilot error that ended up getting everyone killed from what I was reading in the accident reports.
Didn't that cause MD to go under completely? Was these safety issues? Was that what caused them to go under, or was it like bad management or something?
I think that's largely what started to get them to go under, is that they could not really financially handle the massive issues that were happening with the DC-10, and that's what led them to merge with Boeing. And that's why, if you ever look at the modern Boeing logo, and let me show it to y'all right here. So, Boeing logo, there we go. You will actually see that the Boeing logo includes the McDonnell Douglas logo signature over here. That's actually from McDonnell Douglas. And you can actually see that right here. You can see right down there the little McDonnell Douglas symbol in 1960. And then you can see that it got merged into Boeing with the Boeing Group in 1997.
Just another reason I don't like Boeing. Actually, I actually did not know this. To be honest with you, like I like got basic knowledge on like the aircraft history and stuff like that. I did not know that Boeing was merged with McDonnell Douglas like that. That's very fascinating.
Well, yeah, but you know what's interesting though? McDonnell Douglas was actually the one that designed and built the F-15, which is the best air superiority fighter by record in the world.
So like a hit or miss. Basically, it's like this one's good, this one's bad. It's like what the software developers like to do, but they send out like patches and software fixes as the thing updates, but you can't do that with a plane.
Yeah, you cannot. You can't do that really with a plane well. But one thing that's really interesting though about Boeing, and let me make sure that I'm correct with this, because if I remember this correctly, I should be right. And I'm trying to see if I can go to let's see. Let's see here. See also. I don't want to see also. I just want to see all the planes they've made. War profiteering. Oh, come on. War profiteering from Boeing? Oh, please. Come on, y'all. That's unrealistic. But let's see here. Jet biofuels. Oh, that's about the max. Dang, dude. The entire, like, Wikipedia page is almost, like, nothing but an absolute diss on Boeing. Like, do you notice that? Like, origin, sea launch, merger, corporate headquarters moves, labor strike, safety defects, crashes, Alaskan Airlines Flight 1282, the crash with that, environmental record, it's bullshit, the political
Is the page locked? Is the page locked or is it open? I'm curious, like at the top of it. Let's see here. So yeah, it's locked. So that means the Wikipedia people looked at it and apparently figured people were messing with the page. So interesting. So this is actually like apparently a reviewed version of the Boeing page. Very fascinating.
You would think that they have a lot more about like the products that they're putting out instead of just like the bad records of Boeing. I mean, this entire thing is literally a diss on Boeing. Like, now I will say this, Boeing hasn't really gotten a lot of positive reputation in the public sphere these days. Like, if I did not say that, I would be lying to y'all. A lot of people don't trust Boeing, Matthew and me kind of included. So you can kind of see why the article is so heavily skewed. But it's still not talking about some of the interesting things like the Boeing 707 or anything along those lines. Like, this thing is literally just a diss on Boeing and what they've been doing in the recent few years they've been around. But beyond that, you can also see that all of their revenue information is showing a pretty steep downward trend, like a loss of $17 billion in equity, which is not really incredibly good. But their number of employees are going up. I don't know how that's making sense, but their employee numbers are going up, but everything across the board is going down, interestingly enough, except for revenue, which is still going up for some reason. But anyways, beyond that, I want to be able to show y'all something interesting about Boeing. And considering that the entire Wikipedia page isn't really talking about this much, Boeing during the 60s and the 70s actually really wasn't producing that many aircraft, kind of like they do nowadays. They actually were involved a lot more in defense contracts and producing missiles, specifically intercontinental ballistic missiles, and building out the United States nuclear arsenal. It was actually during that time, leading up to the creation of the Boeing 747, that Boeing was truly going to die. If it was not for those government military contracts for producing missiles, Boeing actually would have gone completely under and would have folded, and it may have actually been merged with another company. But there are loads of different companies out there that have ended up going under in the aviation sphere. One of them that was really sad, actually, was North American Aviation. North American Aviation was a really big company back in the day that produced some of America's most famous aircraft, actually two of America's most famous aircraft, the P-51 Mustang and the F-86 Sabre. North American designed and produced both of those, and sadly, they went under at around the time the F-15 happened, because at the time North American tried to design. Well, I'm turning into a New Yorker here. A competitor to the F-15, which I believe was called like the YF-225, if I'm correct. And let me see if I can find. I cannot find it. So let me see if I can scroll down here and find this for y'all. Post-war years, F-107, F-108, nuclear development. Yep, cool and wonderful to know. I be dipped. They don't go over it. They've got to go over it, though, because it was one of the biggest things that they were doing, and everyone really wanted to talk about it and see the thing. But beyond that, sadly, I cannot find the thing. But it was the competitor to the F-15. It was pretty unique, but because the contract was so expensive, like North American couldn't make a good bid, the government went with the F-15 contract, and North American went under. And I believe it got merged. Let's see here. Who did it get merged with? It got merged with who, though? Oh, it got merged with North American. Wait a minute, hang on, hold up. Became part of North American Rockwell, which later became Rockwell International, and now it's also been absorbed into Boeing. So now North American kind of lives through Boeing. But anyways, with that, I hope that does kind of address that well, talking about why it's not good to live in Russia, and then we ended up going through a whole aviation rabbit hole. But anyways, with that, now y'all know I'm not just a train nerd, I'm also a plane nerd as well. Like, I don't want to, like, get labeled as one. I just like reading and learning about everything. So anyways, with that, Matthew, I understand that the fundraisers got up to a whopping $3,700 at this point in under an hour. And a lot of people have been involved in making that possible. And, of course, while we can't read everyone out, I wish we could, though, from the biggest donors to the smallest donors, we can only read out the top donors, because if we read out everyone, we would be here for hours. But I do want to make sure that we can read off the top donors and then give a huge thanks to every single one of y'all who have come together to make this fundraiser possible and to make the incredible magic that the LSA does every single Sunday once again come to fruition. And so, Matthew, what do we have?
All right, so the fundraiser is doing tremendously well tonight. It's already well above goal, and it's still going strong, and I love to see that. But real quick, to shout out our top donors for the night, so far, we have the largest one, which is a $200 donation from James Hughes, and that is the biggest one, and huge shout out to James for that massive generosity. We also have a $125 from AJ, the second largest, and then we have several $100 donations. We have our first one from some guy called The Enforcer, as well as a $100 from Hal Rose, Plant Lady, Gene Kustra, Andy L, BC Skyman, as well as Bobo Vasquez. And then we have a 60 from Tom S, as well as Paramecium 13, who put in a 54, as well as several $50 donations. The first one from Rad Doctor, as well as Snow White, Axel K, Avari Mandabratis, Cliff H, William Cullison, as well as Greg Carrier, Dad Good, David Dornblazer, as well as Snow White once again, and also Patrol. And huge shout out to all the top donors for tonight as well. And like the Enforcer said, sadly we can't call everyone out, or we would literally be reading off a list so long it would outdo the length of the spreadsheet. But huge thanks to everybody that's donated, because once again, we smashed the goal on another fantastic Sunday night fundraiser, and that is a feat every single time we do it. I don't see many other channels doing this so often as we do and actually hitting goals, and that is fantastic. Also, by the way, I saw a 333 just came in from someone. Do you see that, Enforcer? I see people saying it, but I'm not seeing it.
Let's see, a 333 came in. I don't see it in the chat, at least recently. Could anyone give us the name of who threw that in? Because we would like to know. Like, we would love to know who that was, because I didn't hear them get called out, and I didn't see them in the chat either. Maybe we missed it somehow, some way. I don't know.
It could have been an anonymous donor, maybe, because I don't remember seeing one with a name attached to it, but I see Barry Woodward saying Anonymous is rocking it. Let's see, Hal Rose threw in a 333. Somehow I missed that. I did not see it come through in the chat, but sorry about that, Hal Rose. I think that is your 333, if we're not mistaken. I see some confusion about that in the live chat as well. So if it's Hal Rose, huge shout out to you. Apparently there was a glitch or something because I never saw it come through the chat, but if it is, huge shout out once again. Also, I see everybody saying probably Hal Rose. So I see George Tinger saying it was Hal Rose. So we're giving Hal Rose credit at this point. If he put it in or not, huge thanks to Hal Rose because he's always supporting the fundraisers as well. And huge shout out to him. Also, the Enforcer put in $1. What the hell? What's going on?
I had to put in that $1 because remember we got the $1 super chat for some reason earlier. And I was like, you know what? That's a good time to do it while you're talking so that way I can go through and do all the financial stuff. But yeah, we had to put in $1 because I'll show you all this. We have $1 of profit registered on the stream tonight. I don't know how this happened, but earlier on, I don't know if you collected that super chat, Matthew, or not. One super chat came in, and it was a $1 super chat, and we were completely like gobstopped as to how that came through because there is a fundraiser attached to the stream and you shouldn't be able to support the channel tonight, yet someone did. And I was like, that's not supposed to happen. So I told them at the beginning of the stream that we were going to put that $1 towards the fundraiser so that way it wasn't collected as profit for the channel. So that's why the $1 went in the way it did right there. Because Matthew's like, what the hell, $1? And I was like, yeah, $1 because we gotta do this thing outright. We can't make a cent running this thing tonight. That's kind of the rule. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, Matthew, I got to say this before we move on into a few questions. I got to give a huge thanks to every single one of y'all for supporting this fundraiser tonight. It's been an insane one. It's crazy to think that it's gotten up to $3,700. But it's thanks to each and every single one of y'all that we're able to make sure that the Lee Spring Army truly has a big role to play out there in the world. There's not many ways that folks here in the West can truly get involved in changing the course of wars around the world, especially ones that are important for Western interests. Loads of people go out into the streets and gather around and have a little hoopla and a cookout pretty much and wave some flags and say they're for Ukraine, but that doesn't really do a lot to change how the war is actually being fought and played out across the seas. The Lee Spring Army every single weekend, every single Sunday actually has a real impact on how the war is unfolding. Every single time that this channel even comes together with just $4,000 or $5,000, y'all are making it a reality for Ukraine to focus an additional $4,000 out of humanitarian efforts and onto the actual war they're fighting. Every single time we do this, we take a little bit of pressure off of the Ukrainian government by supporting these nonprofits, and they're able to go and focus on the war effort a whole lot more and being able to try and actually win this war and bring about this victory that is not only going to be good for Ukraine, but it's going to be good for all of us as well. And I got to thank you all so much once again, whether we were able to call out y'all's donations or not, for being a part of that, as y'all continue to be a massive and integral part of the major Western alliance and how the wars keep on unfolding in our favor. And so a huge thanks to y'all once again, and put an LSA in the chat if you're proud of having that sort of a legacy every single weekend. And with that, we are going to be moving on into a couple of questions. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and real quick, we do have a poll that's currently running, and we don't want to get too far away from this one because we did just talk about the Russian central bank thing, so let's go ahead and address it. It says, the Russian central bank claims that the Russian economy is on the brink of an economic crisis. Who would have guessed, and what are your thoughts? 52% said Russia will collapse very soon, while 30% said only time will tell, and 14% said Russia will survive the crisis. And the big question is, because I don't think Russia is going to survive the crisis on their own. I think, in my opinion, they would collapse. But I think at this point, the other allies of Russia realize that they want to keep Russia in this fight because it's distracting the West, and that is the ultimate goal of the Axis powers, is to keep us spread thin. So just like Russia, in my opinion, would support Iran to keep the Middle East wars going, China and other countries might decide to support Russia in some way or another to make sure they don't completely collapse and the entire country goes into chaos. And that's my current assessment. So I think that only time will really tell on it if the allies do come in for Russia on their economy. But I think generally they probably will survive this crisis. I don't think they're going to be allowed to collapse like the Soviet Union did. I think it'll be a little bit different. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that Russia will probably not completely collapse because of an economic depression, but it will knock them out of the war, and it'll probably put them through some very tumultuous times. But I don't think, like Matthew was saying, I'd have to agree with him, Russia is ever going to collapse again like it did during Soviet times, where the entire Union literally just dissolved in front of everyone's eyes. I don't think that's going to be be happening again with Russia. We'll probably see new leadership. We may see major internal strife, but I don't think we'll ever see anything along those lines again, because it seems like the Russian public and the government are pretty well cemented into what they are these days. And so while leadership can change, the nation won't really change and just completely dissolve like it did in the past. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, it's now time for us to move on into the rest of the night's news. And we still have a great deal of it to cover. And so moving on up into the Kursk Oblast and into the area around Glishkovo, we were able to see that the Ukrainians are using a decent amount of armor in this area near Glishkovo. This Ukrainian Leopard 2A6 was actually recovering a damaged T-72B3 from the front lines near to the town of Glishkovo, showing that the Ukrainians are incredibly close to the area. And not only that, the situation is calm enough and well under Ukrainian control that they're able to recover damaged main battle tanks from the front lines. Two and very, very important things to gather for battle analysis at this point. And we see the tank getting on out of there. And we can see some kind of an explosion there, but the two tanks just continue trudging on forward. It looks like something.
Also, by the way, I don't mean to distract from the video here. I saw something that Kaltenberg said in the live chat. He said China won't drag itself down with Russia so there is a limit to support. And now, typically, Kaltenberg, I would say that that would be true. But the catch is right now, kind of like Russia is, China might find itself with very few real, substantial allies. And even though Russia is very weak right now, they're one of China's really only main, real allies they've got. And the same thing goes for Russia. So even though China and Russia, may hate each other sort of at a deeper level, I think China would want Russia to stay in power the current way it is, or at least keep Putin in power, because they really don't know what could happen if the country collapsed. They don't know what type of government would come in after that, and it may not be aligned very well with China at that point. So me personally, I think China would step in and maybe potentially drag itself down with Russia, but I'm not really sure if they would necessarily drag themselves down by supporting Russia. But Enforcer, do you want to weigh in?
I don't think they would ever do anything to the point that they would destroy their own economy. But they will make sure to funnel support into Russia, not military, well, not a large amount of military support. It would probably end up becoming economic support to keep Russia afloat, because we do have to remember that Russia isn't some kind of a massive titan that China is trying to keep alive. And I'll actually show you all that here in a second in the stats, because that's a good point. But I actually have a counter to that. It wouldn't be that hard for China to pull off. So let me go and pull up the GDP stats, because GDP kind of gives you an idea of the kind of monster of a country that you're really dealing with in the stats. So let me go to Russia GDP here. So these are based off of the 2022 figures. We don't have the ones for 2023 or 2024 yet, but the Chinese economy is stagnating compared to America's. Thank God, Matthew, that that's the case, because you can see that the U.S. economy has actually grown by several trillion over 2020 to 2022, going all the way up to $25 trillion as our national GDP as of the 2022 calendar year, while China is pretty much leveled off at around 18 trillion. So there's
an Evergrande situation really dinged China really badly. That entire real estate issue with Evergrande, that was the start of a really bad situation, and it kind of has gone downhill from there. Personally, me though, I don't think China's going down and out with their economy. They're having issues, or we're also having issues ourselves. I think China's having some worse issues, but ultimately though, I don't think it's going to be the nail in the coffin for China's economy.
Oh, certainly not. They're not down and out forever. That's obviously, I would have to agree. That's obviously true. But the thing is that they are slowing down greatly. And this does mean that a lot of their plans, like national rejuvenation, are not really going to be happening on schedule anymore by 2049, because that was generally going off of their projected economic growth from 2008 to 2017, which was wildly fast, because from 2008, they went from having a GDP of 4.5 trillion to, by the time of 2017, they were up to 12 trillion. So their economy literally tripled in size over those 9 years. Now that's not really the case. So it looks like it's going to be going a good bit slower, and they're not really going to be able to grow the economy that quickly because of all the massive economic problems. But at the same time, I have to remind you all of a size and a scale in between Russia and China. Japan, way down here, has a GDP now, and it's actually shrank massively in 2021 to 2022, of $4.2 trillion. And y'all wouldn't believe this, but that's actually the third largest economy in the world. Like, that's the third biggest one. Russia doesn't even show up hardly in the top 10. Russia has the same GDP as a single U.S. state. It has the same GDP as the state of Texas. And Russia only has a GDP of $2 trillion, but that's by the 2022 figures, and we know that nowadays it's probably a lot lower. So let me put that into perspective. If you were to compare that to the amount of money moving around in China, let me show y'all how big Russia would be compared to China at a year where China would be around $2.2 trillion in GDP. The last time that China had that size of an economy was back in 2005. That's how far they've come. And that little blue dot down here on the on this graph is showing y'all how big Russia's economy is compared to China's. So in terms of the amount of economic activity in Russia that would have to be propped up or supported by the Chinese, it's not a lot. It's actually quite a small country. And America can sometimes go around and float entire nations sometimes if need be. And we have seen that historically where we've just gone and pumped money into a country and grown them rapidly, like South Korea, which is a very good example, which I believe the South Korean GDP these days is close to Russia's. South Korea,
they're a powerhouse. Like, it's crazy how like strong like South Korea's economy's gotten ever since they've really westernized. Oh dear, a little disaster outside the studio out here. I had to take a second to see what that was. There was some crashing going on out there, but it's really crazy. Once South Korea got really westernized in their economy, how strongly they did take off. They're like a real like regional powerhouse now.
I would agree. Also, everything good over there?
Yes, it was a crashing of some dog cage or something out there. I think we're good.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think that must be the whole Mr. Corgi thing. But anyways, beyond that, South Korea is a powerhouse, but I do want y'all to keep in mind, South Korea is a large powerhouse because of a lot of American foreign investment that went into South Korea, and not only that, incredibly good management in South Korea around the turn of the 80s led to South Korea absolutely skyrocketing in growth. And you can actually see right here that according to the GDP figures, South Korea and Russia are pretty much neck and neck for economic activity, which is pretty crazy to see. That's the United States just doing what it does, which is just building an economy out of thin air. Because just to let y'all know, up until 1980, South Korea actually had an economy that was smaller than North Korea's, and it was considered a failure, funnily enough. And then America just went, you know what, we're going to change that. And then we just pumped money into them, and then look at what they turned into now. They're one of the biggest economies in that area of East Asia that is Western aligned, which is a very impressive thing for that. But still, it wouldn't be that much for them to support it because it's not like Russia and China are on par economically. Russia is small peanuts for really everyone in the world at this point. So China could try and support them. It's just that they're going through their own economic troubles at this point, and that may kind of dictate if they can support them a lot or a little because they're not as prosperous as they once were back from 2008 to 2018 or 2008 to 2017. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least on the whole economic side of things. But with that, we're moving on to the next clip in the area where we also get to see a Russian SPG getting hit on the northern side of the Reka Sim. And we were able to see that this was filmed by the Korn Group as they spotted the Gazivka moving around near to a warehouse on this side of the river.
Yes, that's the wise thing to do. Go drive right into the warehouse. That's perfect. You'll be hidden in there.
Man, you'll be safe. It's not like it's a giant, like, target, pretty much, that the Ukrainians always know you're in.
It's like driving into an easy bake oven.
It honestly is, man.
And call the Ukrainian Chef Boyardee. He's there up here making that microwave macaroni and that cheese.
Man, they cooking them up, man. I'm telling you what.
Ravioli or whatever the hell Chef Boyardee is. I don't think it's macaroni and cheese, actually.
Ravioli. Give me the formuloli. But anyways, you also get to see a destroyed Russian T-55 near Koronivo. Russian actually took a picture with it. Womp womp. But moving on from that, we also got to see a turtle tank being destroyed in this area as well. And we see it's clearly marked as a Russian one, and now it's not. Oh, whoa. Wow, that thing got rapidly disassembled. Really cool.
Also, Andrew Honeycutt said, Enforcer Matt, I'm curious how Western economies can bolster other economies. Just simply bringing in, like, for example, honestly, and this is a mixed thing, by the way, because I don't like how homogenous everything gets when Western corporations go overseas to like foreign countries. It starts making everywhere look the same. Like, for example, if you leave America, you go over to South Korea and you see like the restaurants and stuff we're used to over here. Yeah, that's not good in my opinion. That's not really good at all. That takes away like the individuality of places, but it does bolster economies like crazy. Like once we bring in these really powerful like mega corporations to these places like South Korea, that is a big booster to their economy. And then once that starts taking a foothold, other companies and that were naturally there already in South Korea start growing with it. And then it just goes from there and it just flourishes their economy.
It truly is an incredible thing, and there's a lot more to that than just the mega corporations, but they are a big part of it for sure. But we also get to see a brand new Russian demining tactic. They're actually using some sort of a magnet on a string to be able to demine the roads behind Russian lines. We can see the string here, we can see the magnet down here, and they're about to attach it to the mine. They're trying to very carefully move the magnet towards the mine. And they're about to get it here in a second. And they got it.
Oh.
It looks like the Russians are trying to come up with creative ways to demine areas, and it looks like that may end up being a pretty effective solution. But moving on from that and down to our location unknowns, we also got a lot of interesting stuff down here, like a little bit of an example of how to clear trenches from the 58th Brigade. Check it out. Going through training as usual. Great to see. Moving on from that, we also get to see a little bit of a drone warfare from none other than United 24. And check this out, folks. Pretty cool.
I'm Audrey with United 24. We're here at a secret location where foreigners are working with Ukrainians to build drones as well as to train as FPV pilots. Now, we'll be showing you a little bit about what we're seeing here, but we can't show you a whole lot. And that's because we've just been told that Russians can actually identify this location just by things like the view of the windows, the crux of the ceiling, and other very small details that we see around here. The 25th Separate Airborne Brigade is pioneering the first ever platoon made up entirely of foreign volunteers. These volunteers have come from all over the world. Military experience is not required, just a desire to work hard and serve Ukraine. Toby, tell me where you're from and when you came out here.
Yeah, from about 60 miles north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. In the last 5 years, I've lived in the metro area.
Hey, look, a guy that actually is from Minnesota that actually helps out for real.
Aw, man, I guess he's really taking a real vacation to Ukraine and actually making a difference instead of bar hopping all day. Aw,
this right here is actually what you think when someone says, oh, I went to Ukraine and I helped out and I helped save their country. This guy's actually putting in the work and not just for a photo.
Yeah, this guy's actually doing something. He's not just hanging out, you know, in the circle, as you know, I call it, Matthew. Yeah, bar hopping and partying and then pretending like they're really making a difference. That's virtue signaling and that's war tourism for the large part. And that's also trying to take advantage of the incredibly cheap prices in Ukraine because no one's visiting there as tourists. This guy is actually doing something. I got to give him a huge credit for representing the United States of America overseas and also continuing to support Western interests through his actual hard work and efforts. This guy, Toby here, is actually doing a great deal. And I got to commend him and impressively. If any of y'all ever are in Ukraine and for some reason, somehow, some way, you see this guy's face and you run into Toby, let him know that the entirety of this nation is proud of him for what he's doing over there.
Minneapolis.
What's your higher cause?
Freedom. Ukrainians deserve freedom. And the Russians need to stop. They need to piss off in my country's affairs. Mm-hmm. You know, if they stop doing that, you know, they can go back to Russia. But in the context of Ukraine, they have to be destroyed.
When volunteers arrive, they learn how to become drone engineers as well as drone operators. Here we are in the place where they'll learn how to operate these drones on simulators just here behind me. They might look like video games, but for these trainees, it's deadly serious. Been here for just about 2 years. When you first arrived, you went through a similar training to what we're seeing here behind you in terms of operating drones on simulators. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, so you usually start out on a simulator like this to just get the basic muscle memory of how to operate the sticks correctly. But then you move on to line of sight flying without the goggles with that physical drone outside. Once you get past that, you graduate to flying a physical drone just in a basic flight in the air, figure eights, loops, circling.
The They're telling us that the success rate of these drones is 25%, with casualties now 60 to 70% of them from drones, no longer bombs, bullets, or artillery shells. This is a huge step forward in terms of cost and efficiency. What used to take a $2,000 to $3,000 unguided shell can now be done with a $200 to $300 drone. Next, I head to the 3D printing lab to meet Lewis from Ireland.
As you can see behind me, we have a lot of 3D printers operating right now. They're all printing off different models that will be used for slightly different objectives. Each of the printer costs just over £1,000, and then they can run almost 24/7, just constantly producing different parts of missions.
How the heck did you end up here being a 19-year-old from Ireland and now really manning this quite big operation?
Yeah. So when I first came to Ukraine, I was mostly involved in the NGO scene for a number of months. And then kind of over time, you get the feeling that there's a little bit more you can do. Obviously, it's very important to treat the symptoms of the war, try and alleviate some of the suffering, but as well, I felt some obligation to try and also help you to achieve victory.
Today we've seen volunteers like Lewis from all over the world, from England, from the United States, who have come to Ukraine to help. They're showing extreme bravery. They're working together alongside Ukrainians to build drones. And what this signifies is a larger thing that's happening in Ukraine, where the whole landscape is shifting towards drone warfare and supporting that. I think you're going to see a lot more units like this one that we've seen today in the future.
An incredibly impressive unit at that, and amazing work to see them conducting out there in support of Ukrainian interests and also Western interests as well. But moving on from that, we also get to see that the Ukrainians are starting to improve their trench works and are beginning to create coverings for most trenches, so that way the Russians cannot see their infantry on the move through the trenches. This has been a bit of a problem lately, considering the rise of infrared drones that have been able to detect body heat. Ukrainian infantry moving through a trench have been very easily spotted and taken out by Russian FPV drones. For this reason, the Ukrainians are looking into researching and developing an easy and effective way for frontline troops to be able to create an over-the-top covering for those trenches, so that way the Russians cannot peer into them, see where the Ukrainian infantry are, and then knock them out as easily as they have been. Very nice to see that the Ukrainians are continuing to innovate in that regard, and moving on from that, we also get to see the Ukrainian war industry is also hard at work behind the lines as well, mass-producing bananas. These bananas were actually produced by a joint investment program by the Danish and the Ukrainians to be able to continue the production and funding of the banana production facilities that have been so rapidly pumping out some of Ukraine's newest and most advanced self-propelled artillery pieces. We've seen that bananas and other kind of wheeled SPGs such as these have been wildly effective so far in the war. The Caesar SPG from France really proved the concept, and we can now see that the Ukrainians are really taking that and running with it at this point. And moving on from that, we also got to see the Russian casualty report as well, which has been incredibly high today. Holy moly!
Oh, man. 6 Bobcats, I'm telling you what. Also, we have confirmation from Ms. Disa that the 99 Bobcats yesterday is correct, or was correct, that is. You got to use the right pretense there, but it was correct. 99 Bobcats yesterday, so 6 Bobcats, that's lovely to see, but the 99 has like permanently forever spoiled the LSA on the Bobcat losses, because that was crazy to see that. I have no idea how they took out 99 in one day. They must have hit like a storage pile of them or something like that, which was fantastic. But Enforcer, tell us more.
And of course, we've seen incredible losses today, with 1,170 Russian soldiers wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 38 APCs, 84 supply trucks, 9 main battle tanks, 62 artillery pieces, 93 drones, 1 MLRS, no cruise missiles, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 6 Bobcat skid steers. Today was an absolutely incredible day, and once again, the Ukrainian forces are doing a very good job. Moving on from that and into the Vovchansk area, we also got to see the 3rd Brigade giving a huge thanks to everyone around the world who has been helping them out in their operations so far. Sadly, I can't unmute this, but we can see the clip right here, which had some very interesting animations on it. And we can see them talking about the drones that they've been provided. Once again, I can't really unmute it because there's copyrighted music in it. But we see them hitting all kinds of Russian stuff out there. Wonderful, long-lasting Russian stuff that will now be long-rotting in the fields of Ukraine. And we see the guys appearing and disappearing in the video, almost like my ambitions, appearing and disappearing in the background quite rapidly. Literally, even. And it looks like they literally got banned. But we can also see here that they are continuing to phase in and out as they hit more targets.
Oh, Jack, did you see that?
Oh, little Bubba down there getting smacked? Yeah, I saw Bubba. Bubba got hit.
Also, by the way, I don't know if you got to see this bot or not. Here's just a note to the bots. When you come in here trying to put the pro-Russian crap in the chat, like, the wording is very interesting. Like, one bot came in here and said, hail, that
Russia,
country,
yeah.
the bad one invading Ukraine. The word hail is very interesting there, because I remember one country at one particular time during World War II that used that word as well. Very interesting that they would say that, because it kind of plays right into the idea that Russia is trying to propagate onto Ukraine. It seems like Russia is actually the modern day Nazis, that is.
Geschlägt mal Leitman in die deutschen Welt! Beyond that, moving on from that.
They can't hold it back, man. They're projecting so hard.
Man, or like those AI versions of those speeches. I asked them not to invade Warsaw, and it's like, what the hell? It's like, that's interesting. But anyways, moving on from that, we also get to see Azala getting destroyed up in the area near Kupiansk. Oh, I'm muting that. Oh, whoa, copyright. Jeez. Bam! Then they got it. A $15,000 drone gone just like that. But moving on from that little clip and further on down and into Chernopopivka, we also get to see the 67th Mechanized Brigade destroying some Russian armored vehicles down here. Bam! Right into the back of a tank. There it goes. It's gone. And we can see them hitting another vehicle right there. Bam.
I might have to get that booty. Man, that's something that Diddy said.
Man, dude, Diddy would not only say that, he'd also start pouring out that baby oil on the floors, stop him from running, you know what I mean? But anyways,
Bought in bulk, trying to save that money. Always remember, folks, save money.
We're Costco guys. Of course we buy 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
We don't even sell baby oil, excuse me.
Man, they came out and said that quick, man. They were like, we're not going to be involved in this at all. Well, I don't even know why they would care, though, because it's like, it's not like anyone's going to go, oh, I can't believe that Costco sold products to a consumer. I'm outraged. Like, I love people are stupid enough that they would say that. But if
like if I was Costco, man, I would come out quick, like saying the same thing. I'd be like, no, hell no, we don't sell any baby oil anywhere ever in the history of the company, because people are gonna be out there going, oh my god, like no way, Costco's complicit in this. It can't be. It would just be like a normal customer purchase. It's not like they're like buddied up with like the Diddy Corporation or something.
Dude, like when you go to the store and you buy like a shovel and some rope, the cashier's supposed to go, wait a minute, are you planning on committing a homicide? No, oh, you silly little goose, I know you're lying, I'm gonna refuse the purchase, but come back next week, okay? It's like, they're not gonna do that. So they see you buying a rope and a shovel, they're like, $12.93, thank you, have a great day. That's what it's going to be. And so I don't know why in the world people think that way. I guess people are just kind of stupid like that sometimes, but probably smart for Costco to come out and make a statement like that now that I think about it a little bit more. But moving on from that and down towards Seversk, we also get to see Ukrainian forces on the move in this area as well. And listen to that. No music, just the sounds, the ambiance. There's the driver. They like to ride. They were born to ride. That's the end of that clip, but just an interesting look at a little ride dashing through the snow. But we also get to see a helicopter firing rockets. All right, we're going to be meeting that.
Oh, yeah, the violent rap. You got to add that to it. It's not a video without violent rap.
Dude, and the rap songs, they always are like, man, this is gonna go so hard, and then they say something like, I asked my mama for $5 and she said no, and it's like, what? It's like, dude, that's like what the hell? Oh, you see them flying out there, just wonderful stuff, really cool. I bet you it's really going hard right now. All
Oh,
right.
yeah, you know when they bring in that, like, church choir, it's going down.
Man, you know what's going down, man. They're having the boss battle in their own minds, man. Like, it's crazy out there. But moving on from that and further down the line towards Novobod-Makivka, we also got to see a Ukrainian sniper hit a target at 1,100 meters. An impressive shot, for sure. And it's impressive because the guy who was hit was moving. Bam! And he went down, folded like an omelet. And we see it now from a up-down view. Oh! And he went down, folded like an omelet. And that's the end of that clip. But it looks like they're, I don't know. But anyways, moving on. Yeah, I saw
that for.
Diddy's influence knows no bounds. But moving on to Pokrovsk, we also got to see that Madyar's birds were also hitting Russian forces in this area today as well. I won't be able to show the whole clip, but I will show some of it.
Oh my God. Damn, that guy was looking like that the whole time. How was he driving that thing so straight while looking behind him like that for so long? Like, wait a minute, back the video up for a second. This is a feed.
This guy's an NPC. What the hell?
It's like the Fantastic Mr. Fox or something like that riding the motorcycle. How the hell did he look behind him like that? This is like comical.
Dude, why in the world does he have like such a blank expression on his face? Like he literally looks like an NPC in a video game. I don't even know. But anyways. Well, that's it for him.
Оце вам зараз нагадаю. Все те же на манежі, як вони кажуть, розвідка боєм. Джага!
He's
Донбас окрема Мурманська бригада морської піхоти Північного флоту. Глибоке проникнення.
And they got it again.
І падабум! Ті самі на бетерах, що стають кольору тунця після спілкування з нашими цукерками. Пам'ятаєте, я з півдня багаторазово показував. По сутності, що це ж треба 3000 кілометрів промислати, щоб
Maybe skipping forward just a little bit here.
І знову Мурманський.
See a Russian vehicle moving along, and as you all know what's about to happen. It's about to get destroyed. Boom! Right there. And look at that, another burned out vehicle. And look at this, another one that's about to get slammed. Y'all know what's about to happen here. Look at this. Here comes the drone. Bam! Dead on the nail. Fires ensue. Look at that fire. It's roasting like a nice corn. But we also get to see here a Russian soldier that was hit. And that's largely the end of the clip. Kind of a big summary at best. But moving on from that, we also got to see a Max Pro getting hit near Pokrovsk. Oh, whoa. Excuse me. You're not catching us on that copyright. But we can see the Max Pro moving around quite jarringly across the street. And you see the Russians trying to target it, and they're like, it's a Max Pro from the Ukrainian army. And I'd assume so, because there's no Russian MRAP that looks that good.
Man, that Max Pro is always comically large and so armored, so heavy, and so safe.
And just look at them go. And here comes the next Russian drone.
The Ukrainians just really, really know how to floor these things. Like, I've never seen Max Pros go this fast. Look at it, about to tip over, too.
Yeah, it got hit by a drone and is just still trucking on along. Nothing can stop the Max Pro.
Oh.
And
that was an interesting maneuver.
Ran into a building, and that was the end of the clip. I would have to assume that that was a controlled crash because they did end up managing to turn around the corner and then went off the road. So, I don't know, maybe they were playing the bell out at that point or something. I don't know, but still the Max Pro did survive the hit. But moving on from that clip and into our next one, we also got to see the Kara Dog unit in action. Check this one out. They're a part of the 15th Brigade of the Operational Assignment of the National Guard. Whoa, excuse me, missed me with that copyright. We can see right here that that guy was O positive, RH. The RH standing for the Swiss railroads. Oh, and this, my boy here has a Makarov on him. Oh, watch out, folks. We got that Soviet-era drip. We can see them running out to the artillery and getting ready to lay down some heat. You see them loading the shell with a pine tree, and bam, and there's the recoil. There's the spent casings. My heavens, are they laying down the heat? Oh, great heavens!
You know, spent casings would make good thermoses if they sold those on a gift shop.
Man, like the 5-gallon thermos, man. Like, get yourself
10-gallon.
Man. Oh, look, it's a cat. And now they're talking. bunker, walking out of bunker, net, shells, headset, people,
Walkers,
boonie hat, badge, artillery piece, more artillery piece, M4 with an ACOG, driving in a truck, looking at the fields, smoking a ciggy. Video ends. Great video, wonderful stuff, love to see it. Moving on from that and into our final clip, we also get to see more Russian forces getting hit by the 109th TDF, more Massa. Alright, we're going to be muting that. But we can see here, the drone coming down. Russians on the run, Russians not having fun. Russians get blown up. Russian hops, Russians don't jump. Russians do not bounce. Another drone. Long-lasting drone. Drone looks at Russians. Russians don't see drone. But drone's quick. Drone gets Russian.
Man, you're sounding like what happens when you turn on that like hearing impaired function on the iPhone, and it like reads everything off that you're like pointing your mouse cursor at or something like that. It sounds just like that, like on Xbox. Left button, right button, X, A button. Move forward.
I wish I could find this, man. It was a Chinese TikTok thing, and it was $1, and it was talking in English, and it was like, this is a very sad. This zoo ran out of money and could no longer supply proper aqua to the dolphins, and so it decided to substitute it with cheap Temu ice. How bad? How sad? It was something like that, and it was so funny. And I was like, I wish I could show that to y'all, but I had no way to save it. Drone comes down. Drone hits truck. Truck gone. Very
Favorite
sad.
drone hits Max Pro big time on the day.
Very sad. Something like that.
Wow, I turned on TikTok and I heard that voice. Wow, that's amazing. Do you see it hit this truck?
Oh, wait, hang on, Matthew. I got it. Wait a minute. Let me do this next one. Wow, very sad. Ukrainian drone found Russian soldier. Russian soldier tried to run, but run does no good. Very displeasure.
I'm not gonna lie, like they actually had a documentary on the person that did the voice for the TikTok voiceovers. Honestly, I have no idea what the logic behind that was. Like, no offense to the lady, like I know she's doing like a voice act to do that, but the voice like is not that appealing to listen to for very long. It's actually very annoying, and I don't know why they told her to speak like that.
Look at what I found. It's like, no, I don't want to. I'm good. Look at this video. Ukrainian drone find Russian truck. Russian truck very sad. Russian truck no longer here. Very pitiful. Oh my. This Temu drone found this Russian truck. Russian truck is gone. Very sad. That's it, dude. We gotta just do a whole stream where we talk like AI bots, because I bet you we would get reported like 1,000,000 times for that, and our entire channel would go under. But anyways, moving on.
I'd have to rage quit if we sounded like that. I can't even handle myself talking like that.
Man. Anyways, moving on from that down towards Volodar. We got to see a Russian drone getting intercepted from the Russian POV. We actually don't get to see this a lot, but there's the Ukrainian interceptor right there. That's what they actually look like. So they're literally almost having a dogfight up there, but just with drones. So you see the Russian drone trying to evade. It's not going to evade that well for long, I do believe. I think the Ukrainian drone ends up getting it. And we didn't actually get to see that in the clip, but still, that's what it actually looks like from the Russian perspective. But moving on from that and down towards Volodar, if y'all want to see something that would require a good TikTok voiceover, this is a Russian assault on Volodar, and this is one of the more recent videos that came out about it. So don't mind me, I'm going to end up doing the NPC TikToker voice and explain this whole video to y'all. Video starts with Russians in tank, very loud. Russians fire. Big boom. We hear many screaming. Very, very mean. Loud noises. Have you gotten our latest $9.99 deal for Ultra Squibby plushie from Temu? Order now. Man, that's what you see. Always insert that stupid crap, man, into like every clip. Have you ever noticed that, man? From like the Chinese people on TikTok, you'll be watching the clip and you'll be invested. It'll be like a movie recap or something, and then it just stops and it has like this cheap like CGI like creature show up, and it's like, running out very fast. Buy now or something like that, and then it goes back to the video.
Oh man, I can't stand it when that cartoon panda shows up on the screen. It always like has like the real big googly eyes and stuff like that. And it's pointing at the product like, bye.
That's it, dude. Let me go see dollar thing talking about zoo. Let me see if I can find this. Dang, man, YouTube just never lets me find this stuff, and that's probably a bad descriptor, so probably can't find it for that reason either. But anyways. Getting back to the clip. Wow. Russians fire a big gun. Russia losing war. Yapping dollar. Man, honestly, y'all are coming up with such good stuff in the chat. I'm just going to read stuff out of the chat at this point. Because, like, y'all are coming up with literally, like, the perfect lines for this stuff. So I'm just going to read out of the chat. So whatever y'all put down there, if it's good, I'm just going to start reading it. Just letting y'all know that. Russian truck. Very sad. At least it's not a Raid Shadow Legends ad. Russians. Very sad. Sounds like chain gun. YouTube search sucks balls. Don't forget random dig at America. They just hit a mine, by the way, just letting y'all know that. They just ran over an anti-tank mine. It blasted through the hull of the BTR. Chaos is ensuing in the APC as they're all trying to pop open the door on the side and hop on out. And they're finally making their way out. Oh, smoke fills the air. Oh my lord. That was a big hit right there.
Just wandering off from it and just sort of dazed.
Yeah. I like how they're all walking around, Matthew, in like the Arma 3 crouch pose. Like all of them are doing the same walk at the same speed. Like, watch, look at all these guys. They're all crouched a little with their rifles at like a half ready, and just kind of walking around the same speed. Watch this guy right here, and then the other guy, but he's doing it in a completely different direction. Like everyone's doing the same thing.
They're just in shock at this point, I think. Just surprised that they're walking off.
Hey guys, just letting y'all know, your Uber has arrived. Hop out. This guy is starting to walk into the weeds. Oh! You see them all grouping up. Very good move. We love to see them group up. They never learn. We designed the BTR that will help the troops survive. The design is very human. Oh my god, they got clustered. Dude, did you hear that? Like the guys up the street just got clustered. It was a huge one too. So they're not having a good time up there.
Что делаешь? Тихо.
As you can tell, this attack faltered. They did not make it into Volodar.
Yeah.
Someone's yelling out there about something.
Oh, he just got blasted with some air.
Some static even. More static. And that's the end of the clip. But once again, showing y'all another failed attack from the Russian perspective on Volodar. Moving on from that and all the way down to Sevastopol, we also got to see something really interesting that the Russians are starting to do down here. They are launching FPV drones from a helicopter to try and engage and destroy Ukrainian naval drones around the port of Sevastopol. Man, is that weed rolled up in cellophane on those drones? Aw, man, I could use some. I could use a little as I lose another 100 subs. Aw, man. Aww.
You know, he better learn a thing or two about subs because I think he'll be working at the sub shop before long.
Aw, man, I'm down another 100 subs. Aw, man, time to make another...
Would you like pepperoni on that sub? Would you like it toasted? Man, if he worked at a sub store, I'd be going in there. You know how you can get it toasted? It'd like, oh, you want this toasted? I'd be like, yeah, I want it toasted. They take it out, put it on the counter. Say, no, I want toasted some more. I'm sitting there all day being like, no, I want toasted a little bit more.
Dude, you'd be pulling charcoal briquettes out of the oven after like the end of the day.
I'd be starting a 5-alarm fire up in there, man. I'd be like, toasted some more.
Aw, man, I'll tell you what, man. I would like to have my sub with extra salt. Hold everything else. but anyways, hold the success. Just more salt. But anyways, getting back to the clip. You see him putting on the FPV headset. He's getting ready to rock and roll, folks. Huge shout out to Purple Gerbil, by the way, for throwing in a massive donation to the fundraiser. Really impressive right there.
Very nice.
And we see him getting ready to fling the drone out of the chopper. And they just open up the door, and I guess they toss it out over the sea. Yep, that's literally what they're doing. I like how they're just going to put him by the door, although he has a giant visor over his eyes where he can't actually see anything. So if he leans forward, you know, because he's not recognizing his surroundings, he's just out the helicopter. He's gone.
Yeah, that's true, man. I guess, is he even harnessed in?
I don't think he is. I just think he's there. Like, I don't even, like, I think he could legitimately just fall out of the chopper at any moment now.
Interesting. Well, you know, there are some, like, holdovers from, like, those Soviet days, I guess you could say, on every side.
You would think they'd say, hey, dude, like, sit down on the bench away from the open door and run the drone from there. Instead, hey, Ivan, come over here to the open door with no tether and just sit here with your vision obscured and looking through the eyes of this drone as it flies around over the ocean. So that way if you, like, get, noxious or nauseous or something, you fall forward, you die. I don't have to live with this bleed. It's like, that is stupid. And this is the view this guy has. Like, just letting y'all know, he doesn't see the helicopter. He's seeing this.
Man, he's going ahead and getting ground view just in case he needs it later.
Yeah. But that's the end of that clip. Boy, you just can't come up with this stuff. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but the lack of safety there is crazy. But moving on up to Kyiv, it's finally time for us to get the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 949 of the war. And so without further ado...
Oh, look, he's back on the white wall again, Bliat. He's not in the streets anymore. He's back in the safe place. I love to see. I got a piece of speech, please. It's a long-lasting speech. It's only 3 minutes.
Long-lasting? Yeah, it's not even a long one. But anyways, with that, here is the speech.
Дорогі українці, українки, сьогодні в Запоріжжі 14 поранених людей. Після російського удару розбір завалів триває весь день. Вдалося врятувати 2 людей з-під завалів авіабомби по звичайній житловій забудові, по звичайних міських об'єктах. Сьогодні ж росіяни завдали ударів керованими бомбами також по Харківщині, по Донеччині, по Сумщині. Зокрема, у Глухові пошкодження кількох житлових будинків. На Харківщині пошкоджено багатоквартирні будинки, енергетичну інфраструктуру, медичну. І це щоденний російський терор. Близько сотні керованих авіабомб кожного дня використовує Росія проти України. І це постійне нагадування усім нашим партнерам, які можуть допомогти, що потрібно більше далекобійності для України, потрібно більше ППО для України, потрібно більше санкцій проти Росії. Зараз за цей тиждень в різних наших перемовинах в Америці нашу позицію, наші аргументи почули максимально детально. Так що вже будь-які питання зайві. І вже команди наших партнерів почали готуватись до Рамштайну. За 1,5 тижня, у жовтні, на Рамштайні, ми маємо визначитись разом з іншими лідерами щодо спільних кроків та спільного бачення, як посилити тиск на Росію за цю війну і заради миру, справедливого миру. Сьогодні ж особливо відзначу наших людей, які весь цей час рятують життя та допомагають усім, хто страждає від російських ударів. Я дякую всьому колективу ДСНС України, особливо Олексію Сухорукову, Андрію Павленку, Остапу Третьяку, Ігорю Куряєву, Дмитру Бородатову. Це працівники ДСНС України у Запорізькій області. Один з найбільш складних напрямків. Також наша Дніпровщина. Це Володимир Жушко, Вадим Деркач, Станіслав Лічманенко, Іван Подоляк, Іван Худолій. Хлопці працюють ДСНС. І наша Сумщина особливо проявили себе цими тижнями Іван Сахно, Андрій Нагорний, Єгор Синицин, Данило Суньов та Олександр Процик. Дякую вам та усім вашим колегам із ДСНС України в Сумській області. Ще одне. Відзначу працівників Національної поліції України, що працюють на Дніпровщині, які рятували людей після російського удару по управлінню поліції у Кривому Розі. Це капітан поліції Катерина Тупа, це підполковник Микола Гармаш, це полковник поліції Інна Власова. Дякую вам. Дякую всім, хто береже наших людей та робить усе, щоб Україна пройшла цей важкий час, вистояла і досягла своєї перемоги, свого миру. Слава Україні!
And Ram Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 949 of the news of the war in Ukraine. And that moves us on from our news segment into our question segment. And boy, is it going to be an amazing and very fun night. And so far, it's been actually a very crazy night at that. So far, 65,000 people have watched this stream. And at the peak tonight, there was 10.7 thousand people here. That's actually pretty wild. It's pretty crazy to think about. And let me check something really quickly, because I haven't checked on this in a while, but we'll check on it now just to see, just to know. So let me scroll on down here and let me see. Let me see really quickly. So I'm very interested in this, man. Aren't you interested in what I'm about to find? I'm about to find if we were on the charts or not. I don't think we were last night. Actually, we were. Actually, crazily enough, we were. I'm actually blown away by that. That's actually kind of wild, because last night, if y'all don't know, we only had 8.5 thousand viewers here, and that actually was one of the lower nights that we've had recently, but still somehow, someway, even on the lowest night we've had in months, we were still number 98 in America for the top 100 live streams. Pretty crazy to see that. Also to see that we were so close to TNP, the famously known TNP. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. And Ludwig and Latina television. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, you know, it's absolutely nuts. I mean, we were actually within spitting distance of Joel Osteen. Crazy to think about.
Oh, Joel Osteen. He has a YouTube channel?
Apparently.
Interesting. I guess he's putting his like sermons on here or something, I guess.
Maybe so. There's some kind of sermons, Matthew, like praise be the Lord, and always help out your neighbor unless there's a flood. Get the hell out of my church, or something like that. But
oh, I forgot all about that thing where he wouldn't let
yeah.
the people in there. He didn't want to mess the carpet up or something like that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then, and then he flew out to the private mansion and everything. But anyways, beyond that, still pretty interesting to see we actually were on the charts, and we were actually close to other people like this guy and this guy and Disney Junior and who else?
Red Bull Gaming. They have a gaming channel. What the hell?
Crazy, man. We were actually close to them. Crazy stuff, really. Agenda Free TV was killing it, though. Let's see here. Who else was killing it? SpaceX Live, the real SpaceX. I'm actually doubting that because they got Arabic in their description. I don't think that would be in the SpaceX Live description. But who else? Midas Touch? I don't know who that is. They have politics in their thing, so that's probably why I don't know who they are. Mr. Based. I'm doubting that. I'm honestly doubting that.
Mr. Beast rebranded?
Man, that's Mr. Beast after the allegations came out that he disliked women. He became Mr. Based. It was a rebranding of the song. Oh my goodness. Man, I get a crack out of everything that's going on with that. Did you hear, Matthew, that apparently he's getting sued in a lawsuit for alleged mistreatment of people in the Amazon Prime thing that he was doing, the TV show?
I had heard about some stuff like that. The allegations sounded like they were worse than the other ones that had come out. Like people apparently, I don't know the allegations for certain, so I won't say anything without knowing for a fact. But it sounded pretty rough.
Dude, it sounds like it may be a bit questionable, actually. Like, I was like, yikes. And there's been a lot coming out about that. The drama and everything surrounding that has been crazy. I don't know if it's had an effect on that channel. I haven't really looked much, but that's still pretty interesting to hear. But anyways, with that, I hope that we went through that fairly well. I got to thank everyone for being here and watching, because that was really the whole point we got on that chart, because y'all are the folks who helped make this thing possible and help us to keep this thing rolling day in and day out. And it's really crazy to know that so many people come here every single day to be able to hear the news that we are literally always in the top 100 somewhere. And so with that, huge thanks to y'all once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it's time for us to get on into some questions. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our final question segment of the night on this fantastic Sunday night fundraiser stream, we have to give a shout out to Vachata, who put in a $50 donation to the fundraiser as well, and we are super close to going over $4,000. We're about $80 or so away from doing that, so we're almost there. $80 more, we'll be there. That's just an unofficial goal, I guess you could say. But anyways, moving on from that, thank you once again, Vachata, for that generosity. We're now moving into our Morse code decoders of the stream, and tonight we had the whole roster. We had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millstamps, Royal Fluffiness, and Arabelle Garbo. And they said today's message says the Houthis look like they have become the cookies because they got roasted down there. LSA 73s.
And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that down on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. And the Houthis really do be turning into cookies because they're getting absolutely roasted down there, cooked up even quite nicely on all sides. And so I got to thank y'all once again for deciphering that Morse code message. And with that, we are on to the next question.
All right, so jumping into our first live chat question of the night. This one's going to go to Arculand, who says, will you cover the airstrike 1 hour ago killing top generals in Iraq?
Actually, we did not hear about that one. We would have covered it if we had heard about it. I actually did not hear about that. Mandy, did you hear anything about that?
So if I did, I'm scrolling back through my retweets here. I don't recall right off the bat. I don't think I see anything here in the retweets. So if it happened, it must not have come across my news radar because I don't see anything about it. Let me go and double check in here. Let's see here.
Yes, double check. Please, yes.
A little Sammer. Let's see here. I don't see anything about it. I see a video of Netanyahu running down the sidewalk. I don't know what the hell that's about, but let's see. No, I don't see anything about that, unfortunately.
So we did not report on that because that did not cross either Matthew or my radar because I hadn't heard about it until now if that did happen. So if you have any information about that, please DM it to us on Twitter and we will look over it. Otherwise, we didn't even hear about it at this point. But with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well. And also, what the hell, Matthew, is this lake? I've seen this lake so many times. I don't know what to make of it. Is it fresh water, salt water? What is it? They have a canal that actually feeds to the Tigris River. So that's interesting. I wonder what this is. Oh, wait a minute. They had a
Crystal Lake.
Hold up. There's a train station here in Iraq.
Oh, yeah. Not a train station.
Dude, I got to see this. Oh.
Oh, my God. This ain't no train station. This is a boneyard.
Oh.
Oh, my God. What country is this?
Oh, well, that's...
Whoa,
nice.
It's living.
It's living. It's alive.
It's alive.
This is Iraq. Oh, look. What the hell? Dude, that's like a TGV.
I thought this should be Iran because I want to run from this.
I mean, it is really questionable out there at this train station, but that's actually a nice train. I'm not going to lie. That's a pretty decent one if I've ever seen it. But
why is there just this random man popping up on these photos?
It's
like
the
this?
same guy. It's this guy.
Maps?
He just keeps showing up. What is he doing here? Like, is he on vacation? Is he enjoying life? What's going on around here? What's going on? Is that him again? No, that's some other guy. This guy looks like Vito from The Sopranos. But anyways, moving on from that. I guess that's what they mean by greasing the union. But anyways, moving on from that. Some people might get that joke, especially if you've ever seen anything about The Sopranos. But anyways, moving on from that, and on into our next little bit of news. Moving on from that, I had to recollect my thoughts there because the whole joke about the union, like, really was making me laugh inside of my head. Hey, have y'all ever heard of, like, the railroads that go through Austria? Like, they are really, really pretty. And have y'all ever heard of Mount Glock? Like, there's a mountain called Grossglockner right here.
What
Marmot!
the hell is that?
Marmot!
It's a marmot?
Yeah, it's a marmot.
Man,
Look.
that marmot's seen some shit.
Man, that marmot's living life rough. It's like, have you seen what I've seen in my life? It's been a life of terror up here on the mountain. But
that's like what you'd imagine if like a marmot was trying to impersonate a Yeti. That's what it would look like.
Man, that marmot is really roughing it up there, man. You would think that it would be like prime real estate, but it's actually pretty damn bad up there. But still, this is a really pretty place. Oh, look, it's the god. It's a ram. That's pretty cool. And they got the buildings up here on the mountains where you can go and get the drinks and the food, yeah. And they've got, what else around here? Oh, they got a little rock pillar right there. Very nice, very nice. We'd love to see it. They've got the goat again and the flag of Austria. The ram, actually. Oh, look. It's so high up there, it's above the clouds. Isn't that nice? Yes? Yeah? This is nice,
That's
yeah?
one country that's on the bucket list. I would like to go to Austria one day. Like, that country has some fantastic natural beauty, along with Switzerland as well. But I like Austria more. I want to see that one place where the really bad fella used to vacation. Can't remember the name of the damn place, but it's that picturesque, like, wallpaper place in Austria. It's Hallstatt? Hallstatt.
9 Berchtesgaden. That's where he was from. Yeah. It's
no, he used to vacation in the Hallstatt.
He used to vacation in the Hallstatt, yeah.
Yes, punch in Hallstatt and you'll see.
Let's see here. Hallstatt,
there it was.
Austria, yeah. Matthews, no wonder he did. It's literally right over from Berchtesgaden. I mean, you literally just drive like an hour down the street. But anyways, oh look, I
want to see this place in real life. I want to see it. Like Austria, I think might be one of the most beautiful countries on earth, in my like humble opinion. I think it's very nice. Like the whole country, it has the nice mountains. It has this nice little valley area with the pond and the lake. I just want to see it.
Yeah, it is nice. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Now I will say that if I had to pick between Berchtesgaden and Hallstatt, I'm not exactly a war criminal, so I'd go with Hallstatt. But still, if you want to see where the failed Austrian painter's from, he's from Obersalzberg, right here. Where is the building? Is this it? Nah, that's not it. That's someone else's house. Where is his house? Where is his house? It's turned into like a little club or something like that. I can't find it. Yeah, but all of the Nazis had their houses down here around Berchtesgaden. Like, actually, to get out of the accent here for a second, everyone did. Like, anyone who was in, like, the very inner circle of the German government, Hitler would have, like, a private mansion built on the mountains around Berchtesgaden down here in this area of Germany. And so at the end of the war, America and Britain were like, oh, dang, they're probably all down there. They're probably not in Berlin. Only suckers would be in Berlin. So then we went down here and we carpet bombed Berchtesgaden to get any of them if they were here. Somehow most of them survived, but the area was completely destroyed. Like, literally completely destroyed. So most of it had to be rebuilt post-war. So if we go to Berchtesgaden, it shouldn't look that traditional. And let me see if I can get you all down in the streets. Wait a minute. I think that is... yeah, that is Hitler's residence thing. That's the Eagle's Nest right there. And it got turned into like a restaurant and a bar and everything. It's like one of the only buildings in the area to survive.
Man, oh my God. Like, I really honestly don't know. I don't know if anybody else thinks this, but when you just said it was a restaurant and a bar that this thing turned into, I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to eat in there, to be perfectly honest.
Man, you're just sitting there and you're like, man, this is so good. Like, this is so good. Germany is such a nice place. And then you just hear like quietly in your ear, Schlick for Lightman, what was that? And it like disappears like a wisp in the wind. You're like, what's that? Who is that? Why are you here? But it's not a bad looking place though. Like, it's actually pretty nice. That's why they came down here, is also because it was in Germany. But still, let me see here. Yeah, as you can see down here, most of these buildings were built in like the 50s and the 60s because the entire town literally got leveled in the carpet bombings that came literally in the last weeks of World War II. But anyways, still pretty cool place. You know, it's just that it's got a bit of a dark history to it because of the people who once dwelled around here in the 30s and the 40s. But moving on from that, still nice place. Eventually, I would want to take a look around Austria, though, because it is a beautiful country. And I'd also like to look around Switzerland and Liechtenstein. I'd just like to go into Liechtenstein just to say I went there. Like, just to say I was in, like, one of the smallest countries in Europe. Because that would be kind of cool to knock off the bucket list. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Also, someone said, I want to see the menu. Oh, well, I mean, you know, if you want to see the menu, yeah. I mean, this is the building. Let us see. Oh, there it is. It says the Eagle's Nest on it. Like, no joke. It's actually right there. But let's see. Yeah, here's some of the tunnels under the ground. Here's the mountains surrounding the area. Oh, just wonderful stuff. Oh,
it is a nice place, I will admit. Like, the views, I can see why it was picked.
Yeah, the views are pretty nice down here in this shitty tunnel. I like it. It's nice. But let's see here. Reviews. The view is breathtaking. The bus ride up is an adventure in itself. I actually think this review is legit. I want to find one that's...
Look, the 1 stars, by the way. Go up and filter to the 1 stars. Lowest reviews.
Sort. Lowest. Way too much. 64 euros for 2 people. Service in restaurant is terrible and without any hygiene. Service staff eating from the guest plates before serving the guests. The view is beautiful, but not for this money. Extremely disappointing. Would not go there. I would not recommend anyone to go there. The price for going there does not match what you get. The bus drivers are rude and seems like they don't want to be there. Second, the entire house, which is not that big, was taken over by the restaurant. So it's not really a museum or anything, which is what I was expecting. You can only see 4 rooms, of which 2 of them are a restaurant. One has some posters for reading about the history. Last one, nothing. Because the rooms are taken over by the restaurant, you can't really walk around and see the building and take pictures. Overall, really bad experience. Look at the pictures instead. It'll give the same. Visit on the weekend. Wait time, no wait. Reservation recommended, yes. Let's see.
I sound like you wanted to summon the spirit of that devil or something. Like, what was expecting when he got there?
Literally, his entire review encapsulated was, did not meet Hitler, very sad. It's like, dude, he's like, it's like, bro, like, that's a really bad reason to try and go there. Like, you shouldn't be expecting to meet Hitler or anything. Pretty much a restaurant on the top of a mountain. That's literally what it is. Like, it doesn't take a lot of, like, digging to find that out. Like, it literally is a restaurant. That damn restaurant! I wanted to see Hitler! But there's one wall with historical information and photos. This was so boring. I expected Hitler to once again reappear out of the wall and begin World War II again. Not worth the drive, bus ride, and rude staff. Beautiful area, but too touristic place. Feel like cattle transported to the slaughterhouse. That is the worst thing that you can say going to the Eagle's Nest. Why would you put that in a review? Like, that is the worst thing.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You gotta back up. Hey, yo, chill out.
Yo.
The one below it gets worse. Do you see the review below that one?
Expensive, not expensive, crowded. No need to visit except if you're a Adolf Hitler lover. Why did you go then? You know, it's like, why did you go up there then? There's not really much there. Fantastic views, to be fair, but that restaurant is subpar. And when we were there, the waiters were actually drunk. One of them was so drunk, he kept stumbling, nearly falling over, and then started loud, foul-mouthed arguments with his colleagues. We felt really uneasy. Really not worth the 25 euros.
Oh,
dude,
man,
they got
like,
the
the jokes that can be made.
Dude,
the jokes that can be made here about, like, for example, like people talking about it was very foul-mouthed arguments in this wonderful holy building right here where this very bad fellow lived.
Dude,
so I think his spirit might be haunting the grounds.
Dude, they literally got the Hitler experience in this review. Like, some guy was wandering around, stumbling, drunk, probably on drugs, shouting and screaming at everyone in the vicinity. That was literally Hitler. Like, they actually got the whole Eagle's Nest experience right there.
In one of these reviews you're going to see in a minute, there was some guy stumbling around yelling, fiending for something called Pervitin or something. He was
and
like,
he had this weird mustache. Dude, he was going,
you really can't.
The bus is not available in November. People have to walk for 4 hours to visit the Eagle's Nest. We didn't. Well, why'd you review it then? Let's see. What? First of all, I would never give Hitler 5 stars. He should be minus 5 stars. This building is not Hitler, it's a building. This clown had a hilltop hideout. It wasn't really a hilltop hideout. It was more like
this clown.
As far as the house goes, it's all been changed into a restaurant. The only thing you really see is the view, which is quite spectacular, and the tunnel and actual elevator that sent Hitler to the top. I don't know if people are not getting this, but because of the denazification laws, it's not really like they're going to bring it up to like its Nazi golden age standard and keep it that way, because that's technically illegal in Germany. So I don't know what these people are going for here. It's literally a tourist trap. What do you expect? It's literally the Eagle's Nest. Obviously, it's a tourist trap. For the people that thought this was a historical place, you were wrong. They turned it into a restaurant. Oh my, is this the only complaint that people didn't meet Hitler at the Hitler house? Like, is this all the 1-star reviews are? Is that, and also someone went around shouting drunk like Hitler? Like that, honestly, I would give 5 stars for that. I'd be like, the experience was literally like the 1940s. It was impeccable. I would not come back, but I got the experience. It was too crowded.
I have a feeling like if they really got the experience they were looking for, like when they showed up here to the restaurant, all of a sudden you had like a Hitler impersonator coming out the back room or something like that, shouting and yelling in German, they'd probably be like, "We showed up to this restaurant and the devil himself came out the back. I'm furious about this." It's like
5 stars.
I don't think these people are going to be happy about any of this stuff at this point.
No. Unfriendly, expensive, low quality. Very disappointed. It contained very little historical information. You can literally read about it online. Why do you have to go to the building and expect it to read there? 16 euros to go up to the Eagle's Nest. We had high expectations. There were 6 pictures in a restaurant. Oh my god. Like, oh my god, they're all the same, Matthew. They're all the freaking same. Everyone's just like, it's a restaurant. It's obviously a restaurant. Like, they had to denazify everything, so it's not going to be a museum to the Nazis. Like, that's a stupid assumption to have. It's obviously not going to be that. Luckily, it isn't. Otherwise, it would probably end up being a shrine to those people, and God knows what would be happening up there at that point. So, oh, whatever. We're not even reading.
I really don't know why people would want to go there and, like, you know, I understand there's like people that really like to like study history and stuff like that, but like I don't understand why would you not just go here and enjoy the views and stuff like that? Why are people really wanting to go there and like really dig into like Hitler stuff? Like, I really don't understand that. If you want to learn about the history, just read about the history or something. Why do you need to go to that spot and like relive the moment or something?
I mean, to be honest, it's like, I don't really care. It's like, you know, I wouldn't want to go there. Like, me personally, it's like, it's just a building, and one of the most evil people frequented this place a little bit. It's like, I'm not going to make like a pilgrimage to this place. That's kind of stupid. You know, like that seems dumb to me. That's like going to Nuremberg to go see that giant rally area. Let me see if I can go find it, because it still exists.
I thought they put a football field and stuff there.
They did, but like the main framework of the big building that he would make the actual speeches on, it still exists there, but I gotta find it, because I can actually find that for y'all. I just don't know where it is. Let's see. They have this giant building out there still. Maybe it's around here. I think it actually is. Yeah, somewhere around here. It is somewhere around here, like around that area. I can't find it though. The Zeppelin field. Oh my god, is that it? This is it, Matthew. This is it.
That is it.
This is it right there. That's it. And this is the building. It still is here. And this
is all the stuff there, you know, like that really, like scroll back up, there's a picture of the thing. Like, is that big part still there? Like scroll back up. This one. Yeah, is that big thing still there? Or they tore that down, didn't they?
I think they tore down like the whole back facade thing, but like the steps and everything, and also this area still exist. And I'm trying to see if I can get you a more clear picture of that for everyone to see. Let's see here. Here we go. So this is what exists of it now. Like, that's the building that remains. So the literal centerpiece where the speeches were made in the propaganda films still exists.
Huh, that's interesting. Kind of honestly, like if you, I have a feeling if you were there, it'd be kind of like spooky. Actually, it looks like they're using the parking lot for something.
It's a mega parking lot now. I mean, honestly, like a pretty good usage of it. To be honest, I mean, it's about deserving of a parking lot. But what?
No, wait a minute. They're holding races here?
Dude, it's right back there. You can see it back there, dude. They're holding races in the old Nazi rally area. Dude, this is actually kind of a little like bizarre. Like I wouldn't want to
companies, man. Porsche. They're just the same companies.
We're going to Poland, guys. We're going to Poland. It's like, no, you're not. Don't go to Poland. Oh my lord, dude, this is actually kind of crazy. And then you can see that giant building across the way that I was talking about a second ago. But yeah, like this stuff still exists. I don't know why people want to take pilgrimages to it. Like, you know, like that's my thing. Like, why would you go out of your way to see this thing? Like, if you're passing through the area, you know, and you just see it, it's like, oh, cool. But I wouldn't be like going out of my way to see this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You know, like I just don't get why people would do that.
I really don't understand the people. Like, once again, I understand the people that, like, enjoy history and stuff like that. I just don't understand. Like, I would personally never step foot on the grounds of a concentration camp. Like, I would just never do that. That ground is probably haunted as hell. And also, I just really wouldn't want to step foot on that ground. The people that go to, like, Auschwitz and things like that to go tour it, I just don't understand, like, the logic behind that personally. It's history, of course. Like, people want to see history. But I personally would never visit those grounds. I don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't really want to. You know, it's like, hey, let's go to Cambodia and go see the killing fields that Pol Pot made. It's like, why would I want to? It's like, it's a terrible thing. It's, you know, it's really like, I feel like visiting those places and really being like, wow, I can't wait to see the Hitler Museum. Like, I feel like that's really like trivializing it, honestly. You know, it's like, just leave it alone. That's my personal take. Other people can have a different, you know, kind of approach to that. I personally would just leave the stuff alone and not even get near it. That would be me.
And then some people go to, like, for example, like Auschwitz, and some people are doing some whack stuff. Like, I don't know if they're like supporters of that, like, old crap like that used to happen in World War II or what. But some people go there doing really weird stuff. I saw Mark 309 say that in the live chat. I have heard some very interesting stories. I'm not going to repeat here about some sickos going there and stuff and like making a pilgrimage to it. It's just kind of whack.
And also, someone said just like visiting a plantation in the South. Now, I will say that's an interesting one because a lot of people like the plantations because of their architecture, the antebellum style and everything. But I will say this, we did go to, I think, a couple of plantations because we took a trip to Natchez because for some reason, like, everyone goes, oh, you have to go to Natchez. And it was like hell there in Natchez. It was terrible. And also, then after that, I was a big enemy of, like, going and looking at plantations because, like, the atmosphere around them is, like, no other way to describe it than oppressive. Like, even in the modern day, there's, like, this oppressive atmosphere that surrounds a plantation, like the way people act on the property, around the property, and everything like that. I was like, this is not a good place. Like, this is not a place you want to go travel to see. So I'll have to agree with that. Like, visiting plantations, I kind of find it to be a little silly. And also on top of that, like, what's really weird is that they also try and sugarcoat things a little bit, like at plantations, which is really weird because they'll be like, oh, you know, like this plantation is all nice and beautiful and, you know, the slaves would come in, they'd have a fun time. It's like, what do you mean? It's like they were slaves. It's like they didn't even have like personal rights or anything. It's like you can't try and make it sound like they were having a fun time. It's like they were not having a fun time. Like, I don't think anyone who has all their rights stripped from them and they're literally just a work, like, forced to work, I don't think they're having that fun of a time. So I don't know why in the world everyone, like, folks at plantations always try and, like, sugarcoat that a little bit. And then it still feels oppressive even when they sugarcoat it, you know. And I'm not saying, like, oppressive in, like, some sort of, like, a really politicized way. It's just this atmosphere around them It just feels heavy. Like, I don't know. Like, there's really no way to describe it well, but it's like, you know, I'm not really a big fan of visiting those buildings either, to be entirely honest. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well. And with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one's going to go to Michael McMahon, who says, what do y'all think are the odds of Iran going at it in a nuclear exchange with Israel?
Pretty low at the moment, because they're not even going at it on a conventional level, and they have to kind of go at it on the conventional level before they go nuclear. Usually that's kind of the levels of escalation that we see. So the chances of that happening are slim to none at the moment. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one's going to go to AF Kaplan, who says, now that Israel's on the offensive again against Iran and its proxies, do you think that this will impact the shipments of Shahed drones to Russia?
It may possibly, but the Russians are actually starting to license produce a large number of these and kind of pay the Iranians royalties for it. So it may not really affect it that much because the Russians are kind of already making a large amount of their drones on their own, but of course by Iranian design. And so with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so who is the lucky last person who put up the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and that viewer is gonna be Magic Forest, who said, any idea of just how much ammo and other munitions that plant in Pennsylvania manufactures?
The one at Scranton?
Yeah, I think that's the one that Zelensky visited.
Dang, it's a lot. Scranton, the Scranton ammunition plant is actually one of the biggest in the country. I think, let's see, that's not it. That's a distribution center. I'm trying to think of where in the world it even is. Let's see, there's a Department of Transportation. Oh man, it's going to be an industrial area of town, but where would that be? Geez, folks, it's a lot harder to find the ammunition plant than one would assume. Is this it? That's co-packers. That's a school. And I be dipped, man, it's really hard to find this thing. Where the hell? Oh, Steamtown. That's a really cool place. We can't talk about that right now because this is the final question of the night. But where in the world is the Scranton ammunition plant? Is it up here? Canpack US. That's not it. Amazon fulfillment building. Another Amazon fulfillment building. Chewy. Chewy. Many jokes to be made there. But let's see here. Matthew, do you know where the Scranton ammo plant is? You know what? We're just going to type it in. Scranton ammo.
Oh, Jack, I'm not sure where Scranton is. I'm from Scranton.
I passed right over it, Jack. What the hell? It's right by Steamtown. What the hell? So they build the shells right by the Railroad Museum. Right here. That's it. This is the building. So this is what it looks like. It's still served by rail, baby. Let's go. Like, yes. They still use a rail service. That's actually kind of cool. Look at that. Oh, wait a minute. Is that actually... No. They actually do have rail service here. Sick. That's actually really sick. But anyways, beyond that, this one's a fairly big one. It produces, I believe, 100,000 shells a year approximately, which is one of the largest ones in the country. So it is a bit of a strategic asset for arms production. But still pretty cool. And look, the Scranton iron furnaces are literally right next door, Matthew. Is this cool or not?
Man, that is cool. Very cool. Also, by the way, Enforcer, while I'm thinking about it, I see people in the live chat saying this. I actually did not know about this because I'll be honest with you, I could give two craps at this point after the last thing that I watched related to politics about watching another thing. But apparently on Tuesday, when we come back, there's another political event, a large one, happening around the same time that our stream's running. We're going to stream that night, right? Because like I really regret like not streaming the last time. Are we going to do one on Tuesday?
Yeah, we are because like
okay,
to be honest, folks, like even if a decent amount of y'all don't show up and y'all are watching the debate, I can't stand watching them. It's just like mudslinging fight in between idiotic talking points, really. So we're going to be running a show regardless because I'm sure as hell not watching them. I haven't watched any of them except for the last one, and I was really disappointed in that across the board. So, you know, I'm not going to be watching again. So we're going to be running a show on Tuesday. So on that note, we are going to be rounding out tonight's stream. And on a very good note, because now y'all know what's going to be coming on around the corner. And it's going to be another show, baby! And so with that, we will see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. A big thanks to everyone who massively supported this fundraiser tonight and allowed it to well exceed the goal. And we will see you all on Tuesday. So with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. And put an LSA in the chat, and good night.
And with that, folks, thank you all once again for another great Sunday night fundraiser stream and smashing that goal. And we're so close to 4,000. It's still open, so you can still donate to it. And we might actually hit the 4,000 after the stream ends. But with that, huge thanks to everybody that donated once again tonight. And of course, we will be streaming on Tuesday, hell or high water at this point, because we're not wasting our time with that other junk. Again, not wasting it. And we're going to be streaming. So be sure to join us on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern for another night of stream. And also tomorrow as well for a short war video if there's enough news to cover. But with that, thank you all once again. Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, get some rest, and good night.
Yes.